Welcome to a regular business meeting of the California Citizens Redistricting Commission. I am Commissioner Russell Yee here in my hometown of Oakland, and I believe this is the 31st full commission business meeting thus far. We labor on. Robbie, can we have the roll call, please?
Yes, Chair. Commissioner Ahmad,
Here.
Commissioner Kutagawa,
Here.
Commissioner Anderson,
Here.
Commissioner Fernandez,
Presente.
Commissioner Foranshari,
Here.
Commissioner Kennedy,
Here.
Commissioner Lamons,
Here.
Commissioner Sadwani,
Here.
Commissioner Sanai,
Here.
Commissioner Taylor,
I am present.
Commissioner Turner, Commissioner Vasquez, Commissioner Toledo,
Here.
thank you, and Commissioner Yee.
Here.
You have a quorum, Chair.
Thank you, Robbie. I'll start with general announcements. Today's meeting is scheduled to go 4 to 8 p.m. I am not anticipating going overtime, so hopefully we'll end by 8, if not before. Any other announcements? Commissioner Kennedy.
Thank you, Chair. Today being the first year anniversary of the first meeting of the first 8, I wanted to take a moment and acknowledge that. It's been an incredible year. I truly value all of you and really wanted to express my thanks also to Raul, Marion, to Amanda Saxton, Joe Porci, and the staff of the State Auditor's Office for helping make all this possible in the beginning, and for all the staff and the chosen ones for joining us and making this the successful exercise it has been. So thank you, Chair.
Bravo. Thank you, Commissioner Kennedy. How time flies. Okay, any other announcements? If not, let's go to public comment. Katie, opening public comment, please.
Yes, Chair. In order to maximize transparency and public participation in our process, the Commissioners will be taking public comment by phone. To call in, dial the telephone number provided on the live stream feed. It is 877-853-5247. When prompted, enter the meeting ID number provided on the live stream feed. It is 874-4288-3536 for this meeting. When prompted to enter a participant ID, simply press the pound key. Once you have dialed in, you will be placed in a queue. To indicate you wish to comment, please press star 9. This will raise your hand for the moderator. When it is your turn to speak, you will hear a message that says the host would like you to talk and to press star 6 to speak. If you would like to give your name, please state and spell it for the record. You are not required to provide your name to give public comment. Please make sure to mute your computer or live stream audio to prevent any feedback or distortion during your call. Once you are in the queue, be alert for when it is your turn to speak, and again, please turn down the live stream volume. And we do have a caller at this time. A caller with the last 4 is 6252. If you will please follow the prompts to unmute by pressing star 6. Caller 6252, the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. This is Helen Hutchison, HELEN HUTCHISON, and I'm with the League of Women Voters of California. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak today. I want to call attention to a letter from the League of Women Voters that was posted on your website yesterday concerning testimony and representation about communities of interest. I don't want to read the entire letter right now, but I want to emphasize 2 particular points. The first is that in order for you to achieve your goals, to guarantee that everyone has a voice in redistricting, it's really imperative that you allow and give weight to input from community-based organizations and coalitions who speak for these community-based organizations who have historically been left behind in our democracy. And then the second point is that there is a lot about the redistricting process that is quantitative, but there is also a critical part, and that is when you as individuals and as a commission are going to have to use your judgment, your human judgment, to decide what weight to give to any particular testimony. It is a critical piece of your responsibility that you assess the motivation behind testimony and whether its purpose is really to enhance or impede representation.
30 seconds.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Ms. Hutchinson. I believe that item actually will be coming up today in the Public Input Design Committee report and consideration of group input at communities of interest meetings.
That was all of our public comment at this time, Chair.
Okay, let's move along with our director's reports. And today we will be going through the agenda in order. So we'll start with our executive director's report. Director Hernandez.
Thank you, Chair G, and good afternoon, commissioners. Before I get started, I want to wish a happy 100th birthday to my grandmother, Mama Julia. Feliz cumpleaños y que sigas bien. It's because of her that we are here in California, that we've immigrated to California. So I wanted to wish her a happy 100th birthday. Now I'll get into the staff and personnel items. We are going to recommend, or we have recommended to the Finance and Administration Subcommittee a candidate for the data manager position. The candidate is a graduate of the Claremont McKenna College and received data science training with the Data Science Boot Camp in San Francisco. The candidate started as a student and became a teaching assistant at the boot camp, where the candidate taught DL, ML, Python, Keras, SQL, D3JS, Flask, and GIT. I don't know what they all mean, to be honest with you. Sounds impressive, though. The candidate's most recent jobs were as data scientist with Autodesk and with the Democratic National Convention legal team, working on voting counts and analysis. The candidate has worked with the qualitative and quantitative data, data coding, and programming for high-level analysis. The candidate has managed a team of to design and implement a data collection and analytics framework for Autodesk customer-facing virtual assistant chat box. References noted that the candidate works well with fast-paced environments, is flexible and creative, communicates and collaborates to complete projects successfully. So I will defer to the Finance and Administration Subcommittee to make the motion. I wanted to go ahead and move on to the field support staff. The outreach staff has submitted recommendations to the Finance and Administration Subcommittee as well to hire field support staff to continue our outreach efforts. And I'll defer to the outreach director to provide some background on those individuals, and also to the Finance and Administration Subcommittee to make a recommendation. Lastly, the communication staff, the communication director and I will be interviewing to bring on board, hopefully, staff to help with the various communication and outreach efforts, including the website. There's a tremendous need to have someone doing that. Freddie is only one person. Freddie and Cecilia have been doing a tremendous job, but we need some more help there. Okay, are there any questions on staffing? Very well, I will move on. In regards to the in-person, virtual, hybrid COI input meetings, as we have reported out over the last couple of weeks, our outreach staff continues to reach out to local governments and community organizations to schedule possible venues. We're still hearing that some counties are not fully opened back up, and now we're seeing and hearing the news of COVID case increases in the various different counties. I believe it's the Delta variant that is what is going on. And so some counties are imposing masks and others are imposing other types of restrictions. So at this point, I don't anticipate there's going to be a statewide directive. So the requirements will be different from county to county. We had planned originally to all of us wear masks at these events, though many have already been vaccinated, but that was the direction that we were going. But there are people who would be attending who don't or won't wear masks and could lead to possible conflicts at the venues. In fact, just yesterday, we heard from one contact that folks in their county will not, I repeat, will not wear masks and will not get vaccinated either. So there might be an issue if we were to require masks in those particular counties. And I don't want staff to be in the middle of that situation should we encounter it. So I think we need to be very realistic about the COVID situation and whether we should risk the health and safety of the commissioners, of the staff, and Californians who are attending. I've heard from a number of commissioners. I've also heard from staff that there are concerns about the proposed travel and in-person meetings that we're proposing for August. I know many of you have been waiting anxiously to get out there and talk to people and meet people and get to know California. And I totally understand. But I have to think of the staff. I have to think of the health and safety of everyone involved. And there are just too many issues at this point that we can ignore. The risks are too high. And so I'm going to recommend that we not do in-person COI input meetings and continue with our virtual meetings to mitigate these risks of that we're hearing about. The meeting that we have scheduled tomorrow, just kind of to put things in context, is completely full with appointments. So I think we've kind of established ourselves in doing these virtual meetings, and I don't think we'll have a dip in the number of people participating. I think the numbers will continue to increase. So I've spoken with the Public Input Design Committee and shared my concerns, and so I will defer to the committee to make a recommendation if they so choose. I also wanted to mention that if we do move forward with the virtual meetings, I am going to propose that we do 4-hour meetings rather than 6-hour meetings. I think the 4-hour meetings are working well. We're filling them up, and we're getting a lot of public input in those meetings. So that would be my second recommendation. And again, I've discussed this with the Public Input Design Committee, and they will bring forth a recommendation as well. Any questions? Okay, I will continue. Regarding the travel, we are still working on the travel policy. The Finance Administration team subcommittee and I met this afternoon, and we're still working on some of the details. We're waiting to hear back from the travel store, or the travel folks, to give us more information on how we're going to schedule the travel when we are doing that travel. So that's forthcoming. I'm going to move on to the next item, which is the budget. We are still working on that as well. We don't have anything for you today, but we are working on that and getting the information in a easy to read format. That concludes my report, Chair.
Thank you, Director Hernandez. Do you wish to, do the various subcommittees wish to go ahead with votes on the various matters now, or wait till your subcommittee reports? Finance and Administration, we had some personnel proposals. Commissioner Farnashard?
You want to go now? Oh.
Well, no, I think, we need to hear about the other two candidates before we go ahead with moving for a vote.
Okay, so we'll just wait till your subcommittee report. And then the travel recommendation, I'm sorry, which subcommittee, is that public input? Do you want to discuss that further or seek a motion now?
Yeah, we can discuss that now. Is that it, Commissioner Ahmed, is that okay?
Yeah, I think there was one piece that's coming out of outreach which is the group presentations, correct?
Right, the group presentation conversation will start there, but as far as traveling to the
In person.
deciding whether or not we're going to have in-person public input meetings or not, I think we can have that conversation now since Director Hernandez teed it up. I mean, I guess I'll just share where I'm coming from. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I'm torn. You know, I really want to get out there and meet with Californians who want us to travel and want us to interact. You know, it seems pretty clear we're not going to get guidance from the state, and so then that puts each individual county doing their own thing at this point. And you know, things are changing minute by minute. Commissioner Ahmed told us a story about mask guidance in Santa Clara County changing between the time she went into her office to set things up and by the time she left her office. I'm really torn. I think it's unfortunate. I think I have to go with Director Hernandez's recommendation. I mean, they're boots on the ground. You know, their team is talking to the counties, trying to find venues. You know, they've shared with us the struggle of finding venues that are open. You know, and then the issue that Director Hernandez brought up too with, you know, if we're going to require folks to wear masks, then we're going to also become the enforcer of that requirement. You know, and we're putting folks at risk, and I don't think the commission wants to be in that position either. But you know, Commissioner Ahmed or others, you know, whatever. I mean, if you guys, you know, share your thoughts.
Perhaps we could have a motion first, and then a second, and then further discussion.
Okay, yeah, I guess I'll move to accept Director Hernandez's recommendation that we do not hold in-person public input meetings and revisit the travel question in September.
Okay, you have a second?
I will second that so we can have a conversation about it. So I am also very torn.
Thank you, Commissioner Ahmed. Okay, discussion. You know, with the Delta variant, it seems like, of course, no one knows what the course of things will take. But for planning purposes, we almost have to assume the worst, right? It's like you can't just be optimistic and then wait and see. You have to almost assume the worst and plan accordingly because of all the factors involved. You know, so super disappointing, no question about it. And really, there is nothing to that can replace meeting people in person and seeing places in person. But here we are. Commissioner Sadwani, then Commissioner Ahmed.
Yeah, thank you so much for raising this and for all of the work that's gone into thinking about a plan or no plan. You know, I do wonder if there's a third way. I've mentioned this before. I mean, a part of it, and I think the letter from the League of Women Voters to some extent speaks to this. Like, we're getting a lot of input about different areas that many of us don't know. And I understand the restriction on not being able to go and see people themselves in those places, but at a minimum, I would still want to go and see those places, you know, to understand where boundaries lie, to understand the difference between one neighborhood and another, and to be able to provide, you know, to look at some of these qualitative pieces of information that we're receiving. That is not ideal, But I think it's still potentially one option that I'd like to see us at minimum consider for anyone who feels like they would be able or willing to do so. And I just anecdotally, I can certainly say, like, I'm still very much hopeful that schools are going to reopen and come August. And, for my children, like, camps are open, summer schools are open. But of course, that's with a very compliant group of youngsters who wear masks. So I certainly understand that putting the commission in the position of having to enforce and police the mask mandate would not be ideal. My understanding is the 2010 commission also dealt with security issues as well, just of a different nature. So I'll just add that in as something to consider.
Commissioner Ahmed, and then Commissioner Taylor, and then Commissioner Fernandez.
Thank you, Chair. And as I said, I'm so torn between this question just because, I'm being called into work my regular day job. So it's confusing if, one aspect is, work from home, which is the commission. The other side, it's reporting in person for a job that can be done at home. I don't know how it will look when it comes to planning with this patchwork style that we have right now in California, with each county deciding, and what happens if, we're unable to have in-person meetings in certain counties versus other counties allowing in-person meetings. Does that look like we are unfairly prioritizing in-person presence in certain areas versus other areas? I don't know. So I'm really hoping that I can hear everyone else's thoughts on this, on how we should proceed as a group, at least for the immediate future. Things can change, hopefully for the better, and this conversation might not even be necessary in a month or so. But as of right now, I'm really hoping that we can have a conversation about what everyone's thoughts are.
Commissioner Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. I have a few thoughts on a few points. I'll begin with, much like the rest of our commissioners, I'm sort of disappointed that we can't actually have meetings in place with the communities that we're hoping to share input from. But I agree with Commissioner Sadwani in that it doesn't prevent us from traveling. As we are engaged in this meeting right now, I'm traveling, and I already am looking at these counties through a different lens, the lens of the public input that we've received. So I don't think that it bars us from travel if we have to set up some form or some way for us to categorize our traveling. I think that's another possibility, but I don't want to discourage our limitations or the mass limitation from our traveling. I still think we can get some use out of traveling. My second point goes to what Commissioner Fornishari brought up. I don't want us to overlook the security issues of us coming to a meeting, people coming to a gathering for our call, and then we have some that want to wear masks and some don't. And how do we enforce that? Because it would take more than a minimum staff to enforce that if we were to have some rules. And then the safety, how will we go about not having a mask rule? So I do think that has some significant concerns. And I agree with Commissioner Ahmad in that whatever we decided should be universal to all of our zones. I would hate for us to have in-person meetings in one zone and not because of whatever reason. And then it appears as if we favor a zone or another. So I think that is something also for us to consider. And I will unraise my hand as soon as I can effectively do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Taylor. Commissioner Fernandez.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I agree with both Commissioner Sadwani and Commissioner Taylor. And Commissioner Fernashari, you had mentioned that Californians want to see us. I want to see them as well. So I would really, I'm very saddened if we go this route, but I understand. As a commission, we can meet in person. So, I mean, that's another, maybe a hybrid of maybe having a full commission meeting, just us in a specific zone. And then if we choose to venture out, that's another option as well. But part of it is not only do I want to see all the Californians, I want to see all of you, our fellow commissioners and staff. That'd be nice, especially before we get to the line drawing session. It would be nice to actually be together. So that's kind of a hybrid suggestion. Maybe have some meetings just for the commission in specific zone areas so we can venture out and see some of these areas. Obviously, we won't be able to visit every corner and place in California, but it'd be nice if I could visit more than what I've visited so far in my life. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Commissioner Sinai?
Thank you. It's not like I didn't expect this, but it's still, it saddens me, especially because as Director Kaplan and Director Hernandez know, Executive Director Hernandez know, I've been planning the next 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks in August to be gone from the family. Celebrate my birthday and celebrate Commissioner Fornishari's birthday at all sorts of different places. And, the calendar is set up so we have weekends in places like the Central Coast. I already had all these dreams. But, the number one concern needs to stay on safety and health. And I would hate for us to be the reason for an outbreak somewhere. Also, yes, Commissioner Sodwani, there was security issues in 2010, and I personally think they're some of the same people. Unfortunately, the pandemic, COVID, vaccines, masks have all been politicized, and depending where people are on the politicization of it, or if we're all wearing masks, we're not wearing masks, if we're making them wear masks, all those different things are going to be interpreted. And it's just going to make our process messy. It's going to be noise that we're already going to have enough noise. And on the flip side, I do think it's important to see some of these places, especially the ones that we know least of, because the geography does make a difference. Where folks are makes a difference. So I like the hybrid approach. I think it's going to be critical. I keep telling people I can't believe how well we do know each other, considering we don't. We might walk right by each other if we were in person. But we'll pass each other and be like, wait, is that you? But I do think it's important to meet in person and before we do the line drawing is going to be a lot, and we need each other. I always go back to one of the quotes someone said once is, we've got each other, we got to trust the 14 of us, we know what we're doing, and we'll move forward together. And now the 14 of us have a whole team behind us, which is amazing. So there's a lot of different pieces, and I just think security and health is, because it is working. Now, I think I would be in a whole different boat if it wasn't working, but because some of the things we're doing is working, and this would allow lead staff and other staff to keep working on outreach versus working on logistics, I could support it, especially if we do a hybrid.
Mr. Teddy.
Thank you, Chair. I'm recalling that at one point we were talking about a model where we all might be in a location, with 6 feet distance between each of us, and have like a speaker's microphone facing us, and people would come one at a time. So we weren't talking about a whole auditorium full of people, but we were talking about giving people that ability to see us and give us the ability to see them. So yeah, I'm with Commissioner Sadwani and Taylor and others looking for a way that we can make some of this happen that you know, that is more than just the current status quo, but you know, does not unduly increase risk, whether health or physical safety. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the motion? We have the motion on the screen. Director Hernandez. Okay. Let's see, we need to take public comment on this. So Katie, we can take public comment on the motion on the floor.
Chair, it looked like there was commissioners raising their hands.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Let's see your hands again. I'm not.
Okay.
My screen's
So,
Commissioners
There were several.
Fernandez, then Sadwani.
Just
Fernandez and
Furnish-
Sadwani. Yeah.
Yeah, Furnishari spelled incorrectly on the motion, and then it's input meetings, plural meetings in the motion. Thank you.
I do that on purpose just to test you.
Thank you. I appreciate feeling needed.
Second line meetings. Commissioner Sadwani.
So I just wanted to get a little clarity on how we're going to move forward from a process standpoint. It sounded like there were several of us who would be interested to explore some sort of hybrid solution. Should we amend this this motion to reflect a hybrid solution, or, you know, if we want a hybrid solution, should we vote no on this and then have a second motion? And just a question for you, Chair, on how you'd like to handle that.
Commissioner.
Go
So
ahead.
my recommendation on that for piece of process is, Commissioner Sadwani, you could certainly request the motion's author to see if they might be amenable to a friendly amendment. If so accepted, then that motion would be adjusted or altered. If not, then we would probably proceed, and then certainly commissioners are free to have their own motion.
Thank you, Chief Counsel. I was hearing that the idea of travel might involve business meetings or other such meetings, but not input meetings. Input meetings, I was hearing that we want to keep things fair and square for all the different zones, all the different counties. And so I wasn't hearing a proposal to make any of those hybrid. I think that's what I heard. So we still would perhaps look into the possibility of travel, but not involving input meetings. Commissioner Futagawa, then Fernandez.
Yeah, Commissioner Chair Yee, I just want to affirm that that is the same thing that I heard. I think the point being to keep it as fair as possible, but the possibility of utilizing the business meetings in different locations to still travel to the locations so that we can understand some of these areas. So yes, you're correct.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Well, actually, I would like to have, if we're going to have the meetings, just the commission and the staff, I'd like to have at least one per zone so that we can go to those zones because we're not going to have 11 business meetings in August, but we are going to have 11 COI public input meetings. So I was more hopeful of by zone to at least get a meeting. I'm not sure how everyone else feels about that.
Commissioner Fernandez, are you thinking those would be input meetings by zone or simply business meetings by zone?
As long as we get 11, we can mix it up so that it's one per zone. It doesn't have to be all input meetings. It doesn't have to be all business meetings that will have different locations. I'd just like to have 11 that are in the different zones, personally.
Commissioner Farnashari, then Ahmed.
So is the proposal then for the input meetings, they would be not open to the public, but the commissioners would just be in the zone in a venue that's not open to the public, and that would give us an opportunity to travel. I mean, I'd be kind of curious from, how that would change the model of what the outreach staff have been working on. I mean, I'm curious about their feelings toward their ability to find venues at this point that could accommodate that model, if that in fact is the model that we're talking about.
Commissioner Ahmed, then Fernandez.
That was actually my exact question of if we are just taking ourselves and our laptops and going to different zones and just joining in as if we are at home, but not open to the public. I think I just need more clarity on if someone is recommending that.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Basically, yes, so that we can actually meet in person as a commission. And in terms of how that would affect staff in terms of finding venues, they would obviously need to, it could open it up because it could be a smaller venue now versus having to receive public input, which with who knows how many Californians coming to provide testimony. So it could be a smaller area, room, whatever the case may be.
Sinai.
Alvaro's raising his hand.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. Director Hernandez.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to say that staff will probably have more opportunity as we push things out further, as things may change in September, October, to find venues for meetings. So I think that would be something that we could definitely work on. I do also want to mention that we're not really sure what the rules are going to be come October, as far as Bagley-Keene and the requirements for public meetings, et cetera, et cetera. So that's something that we'll need to consider as we move forward, because we may have to open it up for people to join. So just wanted to mention that as well.
Okay, I'm thinking that the motion would still hold and apply even if we did this remote presence, non-public for input meetings. Let's see, Commissioner Kennedy, then Sinai, then Farnashari.
Commissioner Sinai's hand was up first. I'll ask that she go first, and then I'll jump in.
Sure, Commissioner Sinai, then Kennedy.
I'm just curious from legal counsel, can we all meet together and not allow public in, or would we be exploring the area together, but we'd each be in our own hotel room during the meeting? I mean, is there a legal consideration about having a public meeting and not letting public in?
Ms. Johnson. I'm sorry, we can't
Marianne,
hear you.
your microphone. Marianne, it looks like your microphone is not. No, I would go into your audio settings, make sure that you have the correct microphone selected. And the little caret in your audio settings next to the microphone.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Okay.
Speak up.
Unless
Oh.
there's a new executive order.
Oh, maybe it's your headset.
So maybe I could just jump in for a minute, Commissioner. So right now, you can meet, and you and other commissioners are able to meet without any requirements of publicizing a location. And so there is no legal concern with that. It would be, I think Commissioner Ahmed mentioned this. It's as if you're all in. It's no different right now than if you're in your living room or your home and you're joining a meeting. The fact that you are in the same room, even with other commissioners, does not necessitate for example, a public invitation.
Okay, Commissioner or Marion?
What I was trying to add is that after October 1st,
So I believe Ms. Johnson is saying that after October 1st, things may change.
they will change unless there's
They will change.
another executive order.
Okay. Commissioner Kennedy, and then Fornishari. And Fernandez.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Looking at the schedule, and keeping in mind Director Hernandez's mention of, the farther out the dates, the easier it is to arrange. I'm wondering, because Zone K and Zone F are currently scheduled for 2 of these meetings. So F would be the first on the 4th, but if that one were not in this new modality, and if we move, what I'm looking at is we could take the first 2 weeks of August, do some minimal reallocation, keeping in mind that K and F are already on the schedule for later in the month, and essentially start whatever the new modality is on or about the 20th of August, which would give us, essentially almost 3 more weeks to see how we're doing. Just a thought. Thank you.
Commissioners Fornishari, Fernandez, and then Sinai.
Yeah, I was just going to say, conceivably, then we could just all book a hotel room and meet in the little hotel ballroom and not have to find a venue.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Good suggestion, Commissioner Fornishari. And the intent would be, for me personally, would be to have these traveling meetings prior to receiving the census data. So I would hope that we would do this prior to middle of September and not wait beyond October 1st, which the new having to publicize your location may come into effect. So mine would be sooner rather than later. Yeah, and we could just from our rooms, but I would prefer to be together, but that's all right. We can figure it out.
Commissioner Sinai.
I liked what Commissioner Kennedy was saying, but he skipped over Zone B, which their only meeting is on August 9th, and then we have a full commission meeting. And that is a huge region that we don't know, and it would be good to have 2 days there. So I originally, when I saw that it was up in Zone B and then we had a full meeting, I was excited just for that opportunity to see more of it.
Commissioner Kennedy.
Thank you. Yeah, that was not eloquently included in my mention of reworking a little bit in the second and third week. So if we moved B to the 20th and move, so B and then D, so Northeast and then Sacramento, we could move G down between E and F that sort of thing. Just, I'm thinking that if we start on the 20th, we can get to the 2nd of September with the Zone K meeting, having done all 11 zones. That's the idea.
Okay, very exciting possibility there. I believe the motion is doesn't preclude that at all. Motion is only concerns in-person public input meetings, and so we're still free to locate ourselves anywhere, right? So if there are no amendments to the motion, let's go ahead and take public comment on the motion. No amendments. Okay, Katie. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Ahmed.
Wait, I just want to clarify. The motion does read, we do not hold in-person public input meetings. Are you saying that in-person doesn't include commissioners or does?
I'm thinking it doesn't, because an in-person public input meeting is a meeting that's a public meeting. Right?
Oh, I was reading it as in-person, as in we are persons and in person. I don't know if there's language, Commissioner Fornashari, that you and I can, or that we can come up with that's more explicit. So there's no question about that.
How about public in-person meetings?
There you go. That works if Commissioner Fornashari
So
chooses.
Chair, on that, I mean, I think we don't. They are public meetings, right? So we would want to say they're not public meetings. I think maybe if I could make just a recommendation, if we say, you could say there's that maybe we do not hold. You could say in-person availability for the public during those public input meetings, or you could say you could tweak the that we do not hold. Let me see, in-person public input meetings.
How about open?
Sorry,
well, it's an open meeting still, right?
Yeah.
How about virtual? Continue to hold virtual public input meetings.
That's another way to get at it.
Commissioner Lamont?
Yeah, I think somebody said it already, but I was going to recommend that we change it to virtual. Just say motion is to accept executive director's recommendation that we hold virtual public input meetings in August and revisit for September. Provided, of course, the executive director feels like that's the intent.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, Commissioner Fornashari.
Yeah, Commissioner Fornashari and Commissioner Ahmed. How do you feel about that?
I'm good with that.
Yes, I still hold my second.
That we hold virtual public meetings, I guess. Yeah. Okay, in August and revisit for September. Commissioner Fornashari?
I think, the staff and Director Hernandez likes guidance from us to be clear and through motions. So, I mean, I would be open to amending this motion to include guidance for them to do what we were talking about. I don't know exactly how to say it, but figure out how to enable the commission to meet in every zone before October 1st.
Okay, Commissioner Sarwani, then Kennedy.
I think Commissioner Sinai had her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. No. Okay, Commissioner Sarwani, then Kennedy.
Sorry, I was just going to suggest perhaps adding, and now it's fallen out of my mind, but and direct staff to identify and book locations for the commission to meet in August across all zones.
Commissioner Kennedy, then Lamont.
Thank you, Chair. It seems that we're no longer accepting the executive director's recommendation, so I'm thinking we strike that from the motion.
Oh, I see. Okay, Commissioner Lamont.
Guess I want to support the motion the way it is. I think that it's two separate points. And I think what you've been trying to do so eloquently, Chair, throughout this discussion is the commission getting together is not germane to this point here. This is about the public and the public input meeting based on the issue of the Delta variant and mask management and all of those things. So this can be a very clean motion that can remain exactly as it is and be voted on. And another motion can be offered by any commissioner that wants to put forward a motion that directs our business meetings, that it directs us meeting in zones or all of those things. I think to try to fold all that into this motion is kind of making it convoluted unnecessarily. So that would be my recommendation, is move forward with this motion, which doesn't impede any of the beautiful suggestions that commissioners have made about us being able to see the regions and all of that stuff. I think it's a separate point.
Thank you. Commissioner Kutagawa?
Yeah, I would agree with what Commissioner Lamont just said. And I would also, just for additional or further clarification, add after revisit for September, instead put revisit in-person meetings for September or something to that effect. So there's clarity.
Okay. Let's see. To be even more precise, how about that we hold only virtual public input meetings in August? Maybe strike the do there. We don't really need to do. Hold only virtual, hold only virtual public input meetings. Okay, how does that look to Commissioners Fornashari and Ahmed? Do you want to keep the executive director's recommendation language? Commissioner Kutagawa?
Sorry, I think it's my turn now, Commissioner Fernandez. Revisit in-person meetings, plural.
Okay, Commissioners Fornashari and Ahmed, how's it look?
I actually am feeling like we don't need the last phrase about September at this point. And I'd like to include leave the executive director's recommendation in there.
Okay. Let's make that change then. Ahmed, you okay with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
It's the exact same thing that was first there anyways.
Okay, Commissioner Lamont, you had a thought? No? Okay. Okay. We are ready for public comment. Thank you for waiting, Katie.
Yes, sure. The commission is now taking public comment on the motion to accept executive director's recommendation that we hold only virtual public input meetings in August on the floor. To give comment, please call 877-853-5333 5247 and enter the meeting ID number 874-4288-3536 for this meeting. Once you have dialed in, please press star 9 to enter the comment queue. The full call-in instructions have been read previously in this meeting and are provided in full on the live stream landing page. And we do not have anyone in the queue at this time, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Katie. We'll wait a moment. Any last discussion, thoughts? Thank you to staff. I know it's been a roller coaster. Planning, unplanning. If we do change the dates, will that take another motion? I think it will it not? So that will require another proposal at some point.
Chair, are you referring specifically to locations and dates for particular meetings?
Yes, because we approve the schedule as it is now, right?
Yeah, I would agree with you. If we were to do that, we would want to entertain a motion for that.
Okay. So we'll probably want to wait until that's worked out in a bit more detail. Okay, if there are no public comments, Commissioner Kennedy?
Just wanted to say that I've got written out where we could shift things and fit within that August 20th to September 2nd, all 11 zones.
Okay, Commissioner Farshar?
I'm pretty sure when we made the motion to adopt the schedule that we gave the staff latitude to change meetings as they felt needed. So I don't think we need to vote on that.
Okay, maybe we can do some research on that and figure that out. But that would be a separate motion in any case. So let's go ahead with current motion. There are no public comments. Let's go ahead and take the vote. Director Hernandez?
Yes, Chair, we'll begin the vote. Commissioner Ahmad?
Yes.
Oops. Commissioner Kutagawa?
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez?
Sadly, yes.
Commissioner Fornashari?
Yes.
Commissioner Kennedy?
Yes.
Commissioner Lamons?
Yes.
Commissioner Sadwani?
Yes.
Commissioner Sanai?
Yeah.
Commissioner Taylor?
Yes.
Commissioner Toledo?
Same.
Commissioner Turner? Commissioner Vasquez? Commissioner Yee?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you, everyone. So that related to the executive director's report and recommendation. I'm thinking that if we have recommendations about the meeting schedule as well as possible in-person business meetings or meeting attendance, that should probably come up in a different subcommittee report, perhaps. So perhaps give that some thought for later in the meeting, if you'd like to propose that today. At this point, let's see, the executive director's report, is that completed or is there anything else?
Yes, that's complete, Chair. Thank you.
So let's move on to the communication director's report. And Director Seha.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Can everyone hear me? Yes. Perfect. Everyone looks so sad right now. I'll start out with an announcement for the bids for radio and billboard advertising. We did receive the bids late last week. We're in the process of scoring them. So we should have decisions made by Friday afternoon. So that's good news. That's again for radio on billboard advertising. Bids for social media and for the newspaper ads, those are two separate bids, are due on Friday. I just received one for social media earlier, so those are also moving forward. And just a reminder, in order to get the services up and running, we do require those contracts to be in place. So as soon as we finalize the selected contractors, we'll forward them to our administrator to get the ball rolling. Also good news, we have 4 interviews, as our executive director mentioned, tomorrow for the communications coordinator. This position will be in charge of updating the website and doing light graphic design. And I'm happy to announce that all 4 candidates are very familiar with Nation Builder. So there will not be a learning curve and they'll be ready to jump right into it. Facebook ads, we did have finally the ability to start posting Facebook ads. So if you've noticed any online this week, we did publicize all the COI meetings for this week. So the engagement for social media is through the roof, and I'll share that report shortly. And the idea here again is to start reaching out to folks who probably have never heard of the commission or don't have a connection to the commission. And we started to see the numbers through the week, or actually through the weekend, start rising, and people were starting to engage, asking us questions, asking us how they can get involved. So slowly we'll have those people trickle into our database and be part of our newsletters and all our announcements. So jumping right into the social media report, Facebook now has a total of 971 likes, but here's the important part. As far as post reach, we went up 1,274% this past week. And as far as post engagement, like people actually liking or sharing, it went up 384%. As far as Instagram is concerned, we now have 188 followers. That went up roughly 10%, and the accounts reached 4,020% increase. And then content interaction, again, people liking or sharing, went up by 243%. Twitter now has 1,568 followers. The impressions went up by 117%. Our visits went up to 9,297. That's a 135% increase. And our mentions went up by 7%. LinkedIn also had some activity. We posted the communications coordinator job description on LinkedIn. So we did see some activity increase there too. We did get good candidates out of there, and it was free. So I was happy about that. We had 57 new followers. That's a 10% increase, and 275 new page views. And for YouTube, we had 58 subscribers and 1,779 views. So that's social media, and that report is online. And also wanted to mention that in addition to the phone calls that we've gotten at our COI meetings, we've also had emails come in. So in the month of June, 69 individuals wrote in COI input, and we received it through email. And in July, 110 people. Ravi had to update that number just before the meeting because they keep coming in. So that total for the last 2 months is 179 COI submissions that we have in our email, and we will be integrating into the Airtable. And lastly, interviews. We had 15 mentions in articles this past week. We spoke to the LA Times with Chair Yee. We spoke to the Acorn newspaper, which is out of Simi Valley. Commissioner Kennedy spoke to the Southern California News Group. Commissioner Toledo spoke to KZZH out of Humboldt. I spoke to Cal Matters. Commissioner Kurugawa spoke to the Voice of Orange County. Commissioner Yee wrote into Bloomberg News. And then I spoke to the Bakersfield Californian. That is my report for today.
Thank you. Any questions for Dr. Seha? Be prepared, commissioners, you might see your face on a billboard. Okay, if there are no questions, let's move on to Outreach Director's Report. Director Kaplan.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I just wanted to highlight some of our recent COI input meetings. The Commission held a Communities of Interest public input meeting on July 15th for LA County. There were 53 speakers in total. Most of the callers were focused on Long Beach and the San Fernando Valley, although there were callers discussing San Gabriel Valley, Antelope Valley, Gateway communities, West LA, and South LA. We had 5 Spanish speakers that received interpretation services, and we had 1 Farsi speaker that decided to give their input in English rather than Farsi. On 7/17, we held a community of interest input meeting for Zone C, which is Alameda, Contra Costa, Marin, San Francisco, San Mateo, Santa Clara, and Solano counties. There were 37 speakers total. The majority of the speakers focused on Contra Costa and Alameda counties, and some callers gave input on San Francisco County and Marin. On 7/19, the Commission held a community of interest input meeting covering Zone B, which was Butte, Colusa, Glen, Lassen, Modoc, Plumas, Shasta, and Siskiyou and Tehama counties. There were 12 speakers total. The majority of speakers gave input from Butte, Shasta, and Siskiyou. And the speaker had mentioned Glen and Tehama a few times, but no callers from those counties gave input. And 1 speaker mentioned Modoc and Humboldt County in Zone A, and another caller from Zone A discussed Trinity County, and there were no callers from Plumas County. On 7/20, the Commission held a community of interest input meeting for Zone G, which is Alpine, Amador, Calaveras, Inyo, Mariposa, Mono, and Tuolumne counties. There were 17 speakers total. Callers commented on the following counties: Mariposa, Mono, Amador, Calaveras, and Tuolumne. And the Commission is hosting additional upcoming meetings, including on 7/22 for Zone E, which is Monterey, San Benito, San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, Santa Cruz, and Ventura. There are 42 people registered, and the registration is full for that meeting. The Commission people will still have the ability to call in the day of the meeting. On 7/24, the meeting is focused on Zone J, which is Orange County. And these registration numbers are as of last night. There are 7 people registered for that meeting. On 7/29, the Commission will be focusing on Zone C, which is Alameda, Contra Costa, Marin, San Francisco, San Mateo, Santa Clara, and Solano County. There are 0 people registered. And on 7/30, focusing on LA County, there are 4 people registered. And 7/31 focused on Zone I, and there are 11 people registered. We've seen with all of the COI input meetings that registration goes up significantly closer to the date. And we've also had an additional increase in same-day callers who are not registered as well. I also just wanted to highlight in the handouts for today, there's an updated flyer for the COI input meetings. Additionally, the flyer includes information about language access. The Commission has approved providing automatic interpretation in Spanish at all August and September COI input meetings, which includes an audio listen-only line and interpretation of public input. The Commission is providing automatically for additional languages, and those are noted in the flyer on specific dates. I also want to update the commissioners that we are on track to have that language access set up for the first August meeting on August 4th in communications with our Director of Administration. And I also want to flag that requests for interpretation of public input for other languages not noted on the flyer or in the meeting tabs must be requested by email at interpreter.request@crc.ca.gov on the registration form, or by calling our offices at 916-323-0323. And We've included this on the flyer. It's also on the website, and we will be submitting the flyer for translation as well. I wanted to provide an update on the COI tool. As of this week, there are 586 registered users. 624 COIs have been submitted by members of the public. An additional 276 COIs have been submitted by the line jars, which are from the COI public input meetings. And 2 of the 162 new COIs are in non-English languages. I also just want to provide some outreach updates. Staff has spent significant amount of time focused on securing venues, which based on the decision that was made tonight, we still will be able to utilize for the commissioners to meet. And we are also focused on additional hiring as Director Hernandez noted. We've identified 2 candidates for the 4 field staff positions, one for Northern California and another for Southern California, which have been recommended to the Finance and Administration Subcommittee, and I will defer to them during the report out for approval, but I can provide some background now. For the Northern California field staff position, this candidate comes to us with a background including community-facing public service with both the California Employment Development Department and the New York State Department of Health as they dealt with the COVID-19 crisis during the last year. She was also very involved in an Odyssey mentoring program at Sacramento State, where she had many duties, both behind the scenes and involving recruitment and outreach. This candidate has a master's in political science from CSU Sacramento and a bachelor's in government from CSU Sacramento. The second candidate would be for a Southern California field staff who would cover San Bernardino, Riverside, San Diego, and Imperial counties. Most relevant to the commission's work, this candidate spent more than a year working with the U.S. Census Bureau as a partnership specialist, establishing partnership agreements with local businesses and community groups, and coordinating, organizing, and attending a variety of community outreach events. While the candidate has a great deal of additional relevant analytical and promotional experience, her census work has given her a background in virtual and/or in-person event logistics, organizing, and the flexibility needed to be a great part of the commission's team. She has a bachelor's degree from Havana University and a master's degree in management and marketing. I also just want to highlight additional outreach efforts from the outreach team focusing on the communities of interest input meeting and the sharing information about the COI input tool and other ways to engage. Staff is focusing on giving additional lead time as much as 2 weeks out to notify stakeholders of upcoming public input meetings. This has been highly effective in the Central California areas, and field staff are implementing this for other outreach as well. I also want to highlight working together with the communications team. We have finalized a digital action toolkit for stakeholders. This is complete and it's on the handouts for today's meeting, and we'll be going out to our email list this week. I'm just trying to, I know I'm going through a lot of stuff, and the outreach team has begun using Airtable to track our contacts and outreach efforts, and which has been a useful tool for us to be able to track efforts, and we'll be continuing to migrate some of the contacts that we've been tracking thus far. I also want to take a few minutes to introduce Ashley Howick, our Northern California field lead, who joined the team at the beginning of July. And Ashley is on, so I'll pass it over her to quickly introduce herself and share a little bit about herself.
Hello, commissioners. I'm Ashley. I am very excited to be joining the staff and to be a part of the redistricting process. I am currently finishing up my bachelor's degree in political science from UC Davis. I grew up in the Bay Area in the East Bay cities of San Ramon and Dublin, and have loved living in California my entire life and being able to enjoy all the vastly different landscapes the state has to offer. While working for the city of Fremont as their census coordinator, I performed a lot of outreach for the city. I was very involved with many diverse organizations there, such as Islamic groups, the senior centers, the libraries, the Sikh community, and they also have a very strong Afghan community there that I partnered with. I really enjoyed that role, so I like that in this position as the Northern California field lead, I am able to carry over a lot of the skills and techniques I used while working in Fremont, but with a much more widespread area. I feel very strongly that everyone should be given a voice and have access to equitable representation. So I am really looking forward to being able to spread the word about the commission and help all the communities of interest within California be respected in terms of their districts. So I am excited to be on this redistricting journey with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. I also now wanted to introduce Ann Marks, on our outreach manager, who will also be going over an additional handout from today's meeting, which is a summary of phase 1 efforts. So Ann, I will pass it over to you to share your screen.
I'll do that in just 1 second. I can add that since Director Kaplan received the data about the upcoming meetings, we've already received more registrations. So those are literally going up all the time. So hopefully some of you had a chance to take a look. This is a phase 1 summary document that we put together with the communications team, and Cecilia worked on really hard, and Freddie also was able to help with it. And hopefully it's just something that can be a tool for you if needed later on, looking back, that summarizes all of the work that you all did during that beginning phase. So let me go ahead and share that. Okay, so you able to see that screen at this point? Okay, great. So you can just see we've got 34 out of the 58 counties. You heard that data, but I think when you see the list of all of the counties that you reached, it really is impressive, and a large number of meetings in some, and some of our smaller counties just fewer perhaps. And then again, some of these phase 1 numbers that you had heard with more than 7,000 people being reached through the redistricting basic presentations. That is great. All of our outreach materials, the email list that the communications team is managing, more than 11,000 people at the end of June. So most of these numbers are reflective of at the end of June, or what we knew to be true as of July 31st, but at the end of June, because we were grabbing that snapshot. You've seen some of the social media data, but again, everything is here together in one place. It's two-sided, highlighting the access and inclusion work that everybody wanted with our outreach materials, all of the languages being available, the translations of materials. And then we had at least 7 commission presentations that were either in Spanish or fully interpreted for the redistricting basics. And then it was available on YouTube as well. And just a real great demographic outreach as well, where there was work being put into a lot of different communities. So at that time, we had 483 people who had already submitted input online. And that number is now we're well over double that in just less than the next month. So really exciting, and hopefully a tool that you all may be able to use at some point as your final reports are looking back. And if there are questions, I'm happy to take any.
Any questions for Ann or Marcy? Commissioner Kutikawa?
I'm just wondering if Ms. Kaplan can submit some kind of written report of all the things that she mentioned. It's just hard to keep track of everything she said. I do also appreciate this document too, but I just want to ask and see if we could get a written version of what she just reported on. There's a lot of numbers.
Yes, and I can do that. Yeah.
Okay, anything else on outreach? Commissioner Kennedy.
Just wanted to say that, I'm seeing a lot of social media posts going out about registration deadlines specifically, but I'm not seeing similar social media posts going out about the deadline for interpretation requests. And just wondering if we might see an uptick in people availing themselves of the opportunity for interpretation if we were to put out social media posts highlighting those deadlines and not just the registration deadline. Thank you.
Anything else? If not, let's see, we have about 7-8 minutes before our break. Chief Counsel, do you want to get started at least, or do as much as you can then?
Chair, actually, I'm just going to be rather brief. I didn't have much to report out for this time.
Okay, let's go ahead, please. You may go ahead then.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to again thank the work of the Stormwasser and Witcher team. Has been very helpful this past couple weeks in helping to navigate various legal issues. And I also want to thank Marion as well for the legislative updates. You all have been getting those. And again, we just look forward to getting this legal team working with all of you. We've had one retired annuitant. He's well and working with our contracts administrator, Raul. Unfortunately, we've had a little bit of a delay in our second, and I mentioned that, still ironing those details out. But the legal team is working really well, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Questions for Chief Counsel? Okay, if not, let's go ahead and take public comment to close out item 3. This is all the director's reports. So Katie, public comment, please.
Yes, Chair. The Commission is now taking public comment on agenda item number 3. To give comment, please call 877-853-5247. Enter the meeting ID number 874-4288-3536 for this meeting. Once you have dialed in, please press star 9 to enter the comment queue. The full call-in instructions have been read previously in this meeting and are provided in full on the live stream landing page. And we do not have any callers in the queue at this time, Chair.
Okay, we'll wait just a moment. After we come back from break, we'll jump right into all our subcommittee reports. And we'll just go A to N with those.
Those instructions are complete on the stream, Chair.
Okay, very good. There are no public comments. So let's go ahead and go to break. Let's see, Christian, is it better if we just stay on schedule, come back at 5:45?
It's up to you.
Okay, let's stay with a 15-minute break then. Let's come back at 5:40 then. Okay. Welcome back to our business meeting of the California Citizens Redistricting Commission. I'm Russell Yee, and I'm chairing this meeting. We are on agenda item number 4, subcommittee updates, and we'll take them in order. So we'll start with Government Affairs, Census Subcommittee, Commissioners Sadwani and Toledo.
Okay, I don't think we have anything too much more to update. We, of course, as a commission, made a decision to move forward with our request to the Supreme Court for a map adoption date. We did receive just prior to this meeting a letter from the CA CEO asking to speak with us about that decision. We haven't had a chance to follow up with them yet, but certainly anticipate doing so, or anticipate directing our legal team to do so. I'm not sure exactly what the nature of their request would be. Commissioner Toledo, anything else?
We did have the letter of
right.
to the on the trail language, and I don't know if Anthony is here to speak on the letter because he drafted it.
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner. Wanted to just highlight for all of you that it's the subcommittee's attempt to try to capture, I think, the Commission's will for supporting that draft trailer bill language. So certainly would welcome thoughts as to how to address or to whom to address the letter. One option is to address it to the Senate Pro Tem and the Speaker's office. Another option is to send it to various committees. It's a little trickier because this, as you all may know, is a draft trailer bill, which means it does not have an assigned home right yet, an Assembly bill or Senate, so it doesn't have a sponsor right now, an author. And it's one of those that can move very quickly after a 72-hour period. It can be voted on. So it moves very quickly. So would certainly welcome any input from the commissioners as to maybe from a strategic point of view, what might be your recommendation for addressees. But otherwise, and if as well, if you have any thoughts or need or recommended changes as well on the letter.
And I would just point out that this commission's been pretty vocal on the need to improve the open meetings rules, especially as outlined in the trailer bill. So we want to be able to advocate for the changes into the modernization of the rules so that other commissions can benefit in the future and other bodies can benefit from them in the future, as well as the public, of course, because ultimately that's probably the most important element of all of this. So if there's any feedback on that letter, please forward it on to our council, to Anthony, and we will identify where to send it and figure out how to get the most advocacy for this issue. And it may be that we'll work with our communications team to convert this into a press release of sorts as well, because ultimately it is advocacy as opposed to a policy stance, right? And it may be just telling a story about how these changes have helped us be able to meaningfully engage the state a little bit more. So if you have any thoughts around this, please feel free to share them with Chief Counsel, and we'll all think through how we can do that. I know it's an issue that's of particular importance to many of you on the commission, and we've heard you loud and clear. We want to advocate but we also want to stay within our right advocate and make it relevant in terms of the commission's our work and our charge.
And I think I might just add on to that a little bit. I think Marian brought up earlier that October 1st, the trailer bill could potentially, if passed swiftly, could potentially change the outlook for us for October, given in light of our previous conversation about in-person, hybrid, et cetera. But as Marian had mentioned, as of right now, come October 1st, if Bagley Keene is lifted, we would be mandated to go back in public. I don't know if that's going to be the case or not. And so, you know, I also wondering and just kind of thinking out loud here if perhaps Marcy, I hate to put you on the spot here, but I know you have the contacts with the governor's office and know them. Perhaps you could assist in just doing additional outreach to the governor's office to ask if they're anticipating an extension of the executive orders for Bagley Keene. Certainly we have done a letter. We've asked for a specific carve out for the commission. We haven't seen that yet. It would be helpful for our planning purposes, I think, if we can have a sense of what's to come in October. Happy to work with you on that, Marcy, but I know you have the context, so it might just be more effective coming from you.
And if I can add to that just really briefly, just in terms of time constraints, right? Meeting in person requires a level of logistics that just takes a little bit more time to plan and to operationally. And so it in terms of meeting our deadlines and whatnot, a hybrid model is likely the best option for getting our work done as swiftly as possible. And so it's of course advocating for flexibility as we work through this in a pandemic. We're still in a pandemic and will continue to be in one until more individuals are vaccinated. So.
And the draft letter is in today's handouts. Item 4A. Anything else for government affairs?
I think those are the two main issues at this point.
Okay, Commissioner Vasquez and then Commissioner Fornashari.
Thank you. Appreciate the committee's work on this. In terms of being responsive to Council's question about strategic strategy on who to address the letter to, I definitely recommend the leadership. So the speaker in particular, especially since some of these things do go pretty quickly. I'm also wondering, would be open to hearing why not, but I think also maybe because these things go so quickly, if it might just make sense to also include the governor's office in this letter. Again, because these things could be passed and go to the governor's desk at the 11th hour before we have a chance to sort of respond and make our case again to the governor with something that's on his desk. And then I think in terms of communications, because this is policy advocacy, I definitely recommend sending a copy of the letter once it's finalized to the staff at the Little Hoover Commission, because this is very much in line with a report that they put out last month that they've been promoting, and that I've personally liked and helped promote that speaks to this very issue. So they and there are a couple of disability rights advocates who have been pushing this issue that I have contacts with that I could also help put us in touch with to amplify our message.
Okay, there was someone else, I lost track. Okay, anything else for government affairs?
Chair, if I could just make one request or certainly see Commissioners Sedwani and Toledo's input on this.
Sure.
Is it fair to say that maybe I could work on making final adjustments and we could send it out? Okay, thank you.
I would love that. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to finance and administration. And this will be the time to revisit the possibility of optional travel. Finance administration, we can start with that, or other items you have?
How about we start with the job posting approval? So I make a motion that Commission approve the hiring of the data manager and the 2 outreach coordinators. Zone.
Field
coordinator.
support
Field
staff for
support
the
staff.
northern and southern areas. How's that?
That's it.
How's that? I'll second that.
Okay, motion's been made by Commissioner Fernashari, seconded by Commissioner Fernandez. Discussion. Director Hernandez, do you have that motion? Perhaps you could display it for us.
1 second, Chair. I'm going to check my spelling. Here you go, Chair.
Okay, the motion is that the commission approves the hiring of the data manager and the 2 field support staff for the northern and southern areas.
Let's get an A in there too, Alvaro. Manager. Okay.
Maybe we should say the recommended data manager. I mean, because this is a specific person, right?
Or people. And it's
people.
PM, Alvaro.
Thank you, Commissioner Fernandez. Okay, I'm sorry. Approve the hiring of the recommended data manager and 2 field support staff. Yeah, there you go. Okay, Commissioners Fernashari and Fernandez, all good? Any further discussion? Commissioner Kennedy, and then Commissioner Anderson.
Recommended. Bid.
Commissioner Anderson. Okay. No other discussion. Let's go to public comment on the motion on the floor. Commissioner Kutagawa, I'm sorry.
Just a quick question. Is it Northern and Southern California zones, or does it need to be more specific? Does it matter also?
These were not specific to zones. They're more areas, larger areas composed of multiple zones.
Okay. Katie, sorry. Go ahead with the public comment, please.
The commission is now taking public comment for the agenda item on the floor. To give comment, please call 877-853-5247. Enter the meeting ID number 874-4288-3536 for this meeting. Once you have dialed in, please press star 9 to enter the comment queue. The full call-in instructions are read at the beginning of the meeting and are provided in full on the live stream landing page. Chair, we do have a raised hand at this time.
Okay, let's take this caller.
Caller 0110, if you'll please follow the prompts to unmute by pressing star 6. Caller 0110, go ahead, the floor is yours.
Good evening, commissioners. This is Donna Johnson. I am the president of CACEO. I don't know if this is the proper time to speak on this item.
So this is the item concerning hiring of staff. So if you're, and it's specific to this motion only. So if you're commenting on that, this is the time. If not, then this is not the time.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay.
That was all of our public comment at this time.
Okay, I believe we can go to the vote then.
We'll begin the vote now. Commissioner Ahmad,
Yes.
Commissioner Akutagawa,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Pass.
Commissioner Fernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Fornashari,
Yes.
Commissioner Kennedy,
Yes.
Commissioner Lamons,
Yes.
Commissioner Sadwani,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanai,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Toledo,
Yes.
Commissioner Turner, Commissioner Vasquez,
Yes.
Commissioner Yee.
Yes.
Back to Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion is passed. Thank you.
Thank you. Look forward to these staff additions. Okay, Finance and Administration, further items?
I did want to bring up that we, as Executive Director Hernandez mentioned, we're working on the travel policy, and part of that policy also may bring in a concur travel, which is who would go through for hotel, car rental, and airline reservations. So I just want to urge commissioners that if you haven't already submitted the form to get your ID badge, if you can please do that. Administrative Director Raul Villanueva sent out an email to all of us. It's dated June 29th at 12:02 p.m. So if you can please search your emails and submit that form, that would be great, because they'll use that information to set up accounts for all the commissioners. Chair Yee, did you want to discuss the direction in terms of to staff for travel of just commissioners during the next month?
Sure.
So, month and a half. Okay, so.
Yeah. And I'll in fact go ahead and make a motion. I would like to move that we direct staff to arrange for one travel venue for available commissioners in each of the 11 zones for meetings before October 1st. And I just chatted you that language, Dr. Hernandez. So arrange one travel venue for available commissioners in each of the 11 zones for meetings before October 1st. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Sadwani. Discussion. So these are not meeting, we're not arranging for meeting venues. We're arranging for venues for commissioners to be during what will be, some commissioners to be during what will be still virtual meetings. Commissioner Kennedy.
Yeah, just recalling comment, and I forget who it was from, but suggesting that we try to accomplish this before we receive the census data. So I would suggest that we move the date up by at least 1 week, if not 2. Thank you.
Okay, I'm not wedded to October 1st. That was just the date I'd heard from previous discussion. So you're suggesting September, what date? Commissioner Kennedy?
As I mentioned earlier, if we made some minor modifications to the August schedule, we could start with Zone B on Friday, the 20th. That would be a change. So G would drop down to the following week. Keep the Zone D input meeting on Saturday, the 21st as it is. The Zone A meeting on Monday, the 23rd as it is. Zone C on Tuesday, the 24th as it is. Zone F on Wednesday, the 25th as it is. Thursday would be the Zone G meeting that was displaced by the Zone B meeting. Keep the Zone E meeting on Friday, the 27th. Shift the Zone H meeting that would have otherwise been on August the 12th to August the 28th, and then keep the I, J, and K meetings on the 30th, 1st, and 2nd. And that way we cover all 11 zones between August 20th and September 2nd.
So September 2nd. And by the way, I've been informed by Chief Counsel Payne that the earlier language about scheduling these meetings does include a discretion for staff to make changes as needed. So we don't need a motion concerning changes. Let's see, Commissioner Fernandez.
Yes, I appreciate Commissioners Kennedy's wanting to move the dates out, but I would suggest that maybe we keep the B and H the week of the 9th, only because there's been so much literature and announcements and material for these new dates that are also associated with languages for the specific dates. And so if we kept the two dates that you're referring to, Commissioner Kennedy, it would be the week of August 9th, and then we would jump to the August 20th, as you mentioned. So it would only be a couple of days that we would still keep, and then we could skip the following week because that's Zone K will already have a meeting later on. So I'm just going to recommend, just for all the work that staff has put into it, to keep the dates.
Commissioner Fornashari?
Yeah, and I'll just also offer, in addition to that, thought was put into travel time between zones with these dates, and trying to go from zone to zone in one day. From some of the zones to other zones in one day is difficult. So I think that they've worked out a schedule that will enable a reasonable travel schedule. So I just offer that we would leave it to the staff to kind of figure out those kinds of details.
Okay, Commissioner Futagawa?
I think this was said in a way by Commissioner Fernandez, but I would ask that we don't move any dates around either and keep the dates as it is, because I think with all of the publicity that we've been trying to do and the outreach work that we've been doing, I think every time we move a meeting, I think it just creates more confusion. And at this point, at least for the August meetings, we should, as best as we can, try to keep it as it is, because hopefully we're seeing increases in participation, and that will also mean that people are trying to organize callers and people to call in for the meetings as they are scheduled. And a shift in date or a shift in zones could end up, really just maybe messing up the efforts that we're asking Californians to do in terms of making plans to call in, especially at this point.
Dr. Hernandez.
Yeah, just wanted to get clarification what we're talking about here. We're talking about the commissioners traveling to these different locations, having the COI meeting virtually, but they're all in one location. Is that correct?
Available commissioners, yeah.
Available commissioners, yes. Because we had also planned, originally, the schedule was to have commission meetings in those particular areas as well. So that's what the schedule currently that we have proposed previously That's what it shows. So you would have the COI input meeting, and then the following day on some of these, you would have the commission meeting in that same location. So those things were kind of already mapped out, as Commissioner Fornashari indicated. Travel time was considered in the process as well. So I would also support not changing the dates if at all possible.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Kind of not related to this, but kind of related to this. And if we do travel and if everybody brings their laptops, then I don't believe there's the need for the videographer to have to travel. If we all can log in from our laptops, since we won't be receiving live public input. I'd have to defer to Christian, but I think that's correct.
So Christian, the proposal is basically just to have an available venue in different zones for commissioners to be as we participate in meetings the same way we're doing it now. So does that sound technically, I mean, as long as there's strong Wi-Fi wherever we are, technically that isn't actually different than what we're doing right now, I believe. Am I missing anything?
As long as everybody is in a place where they are isolated from the other members so that you don't have an echo problem for audio, basically.
Right.
So everybody would need to be in their own room or in their own location or with headphones on.
Right, okay. Headphones sound like the way to go. Okay, let's see, Director Hernandez, could we have the motion displayed?
Yes, just for clarification, was that October 1st date changed or not?
I think we're still discussing that. I'm not wedded to that date. That was just the date I heard.
There was a motion. Yeah.
Would anyone like to, so I heard September 2nd from Commissioner Kennedy. Is anyone want to propose a date? Commissioner Fornashari?
Yeah, mid-September, like September, I will propose a specific date. Oops, maybe. September 17th.
September 17th.
We should, that should be before the census data gets to us, I believe, and give us plenty of time to hit every zone.
Okay, Commissioner Fernandez, then Anderson.
I'm just wondering should we put language in there? I mean, if things get worse and we're directing staff to do this, or maybe we should like a contingency in there in case it gets worse and we can't travel. I mean, it's back to where we used to be, just so that we don't have to come back to.
Indeed. Well, let's think. Can anyone think of some phrasing for that quickly? What would be the decision point, or what would be the Commissioner Toledo?
I'm just thinking maybe if you just add a little clause like as practicable to arrange for one travel venue as practicable for available commissioners or something like that. And then I'm just wondering also, do we need to put a date at the end? Can we leave it a little bit more open-ended? And I'm fine either way. I'm just wondering if we need to maybe, or if we want to just say during public input sessions and just keep it broader in case we need some more flexibility. Understanding that our goal is to have it done by September 17th.
So, that's fine. I'm just trying to give staff something specific enough to actually be actionable.
And I'm fine either way. I'm just also thinking, lots could happen from now till September.
Okay, so two changes then. arrange for one travel venue as practicable. So that's an attempt to cover the COVID possibilities for available commissioners in each of the 11 zones for meetings. Shall we just say during the public input phase? But that might be ambiguous for the mapping phase. So
Phase 2.
During phase 2, by the end of phase 2. Okay, let's do that by the end of phase 2. Okay, Commissioner Sadwani, does that look okay for you?
Sure.
Okay, any further discussion? I'm wondering, Chief Counsel, the language as practicable, I mean, that's pretty vague. Does that cover our contingencies adequately?
Yes, Chair, because I think the discussion's been about COVID and whether safety concerns make it practicable to essentially effectuate the motion. So I think that does give you the wiggle room that Commissioner Toledo was referring to.
Okay, very good. Okay, no further discussion. Let's go to public comment on the motion on the floor.
The Commission is now taking public comment for the motion on the floor. To give comment, please call 877-853-5247 and enter the meeting ID number 874-4288-3536 for this meeting. Once you have dialed in, please press star 9 to enter the comment queue. The full call-in instructions have been read previously in this meeting and are provided in full on the live stream landing page. And we do not have anyone in the comment queue at this time.
Okay, we'll wait just a moment. Finance and Administration, was this the final item for you?
Yes, I think so. Sure.
Thank you. Okay, there being no public comments, let's go ahead. Any further discussion? If not, let's take the vote.
We'll begin the vote now. Commissioner Ahmad?
Abstain.
Commissioner Akutagawa?
Abstain.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez?
Yes.
Commissioner Fornashari?
Yes.
Commissioner Kennedy?
Yes.
Commissioner Lamons?
No.
Commissioner Sadwani?
Yes.
Commissioner Sanai?
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor?
Abstain.
Commissioner Toledo?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner? Commissioner Vasquez?
No.
Commissioner Yee?
Yes.
Okay. The motion does not pass.
Does not pass.
The motion does not pass.
Okay. Well, Commissioner Fernandez.
Does it have to be a special vote or is it a regular vote?
Commissioner Fernandez, it does not require a special vote, but the the Constitution requires 9 votes for official action for the commission. So it doesn't have to be a particular makeup for those 9 votes, but we do need to have 9 votes, and we are 1 vote shy.
Okay, well, thank you for the discussion and the consideration. Hopefully we'll find some other way to see more of California.
Chair, may
Go
I
ahead.
ask?
Commissioner Samani, yes.
While it's not an official policy or plan of the commission, would it be impossible for commissioners to travel if they so chose to do so? I mean, is that, I guess we still don't have a travel policy, so I guess I'm just curious about, I understand if the full commission doesn't want to support travel for all of us necessarily, but I guess from a budgetary perspective, is there any prohibition on us traveling? Or can we clarify that there is not a prohibition on some of us traveling?
Commissioner Fornashari.
It's something we talk about with regard to the travel policy, right? So that I think that would be kind of a policy decision of the commission as to whether or not the commission would support commissioners traveling individually to see the state, I guess. Does that make sense, I guess?
Right, and so is there a draft of that policy at this point, or is there something that we can?
We're going to have a draft, a final draft tomorrow, and we'll bring it forward next week. So I'm speaking for Alicia, Commissioner Fernandez. We'll bring it forward next week. I don't know when it'll be finalized.
Yes, we did meet on it today, and we've just been going back and forth on it because there is so much up in the air. And we do have different scenarios, and that's one of the scenarios in terms of commissioners traveling to different parts of the state in order to familiarize themselves with the state. So that is one of the scenarios that we'll have, and we'll bring forward is our meeting next Wednesday? I can't remember the date of our. Okay, so next Wednesday, and we're making changes, and hopefully by Friday we have a draft that we can share with the commissioners, and then also post reviewing prior to that meeting next week.
That sounds great. And I'm also just wondering then from my colleagues, right? Like, would there be a desire to vote no on such a travel policy that would allow other commissioners to see the state? Right. I mean, I'm asking about the travel policy, and I know that the commissioners Fernandez and Fornashari are doing a lot of work to put this together, and yet at the same time, I don't want them to expend all of this time. And then, obviously, we just had a vote that didn't pass, which is fine. But is there a sense that people want a prohibition on travel?
Commissioner Fernandez.
Well, with the travel policy, there's different scenarios, so we could, and it's up for discussion, just like the other policies. So we could always edit pieces out, whatever the case may be. But I mean, you're right in terms of travel policy, but I believe there's still some costs that the commissioners will incur or have incurred. So some of us have submitted travel claims already. So this is just, I guess, formalizing the policy, and it's more of a state policy and as well in terms of what's allowable versus not allowable. Again, the different scenarios that we have, those would be more of the ones that are up for discussions of the ones we want to include. But in terms of the rest of the policy, it would just be a general travel type policy. Because we don't know in 6 months when we have the maps or down the road if there's litigation and we have to travel because of that or whatever the case may be. So it's something that we want to bring forward that is not just going to relate to today, but it would relate for the next 10 years possibly, or 8 years, or however long we are commissioners until the 2030 commission is appointed.
And Commissioner, if I could just add in too, there is a state of California expectation that each individual state entity does adopt some sort of travel policy. There is some discretion left to individual departments, and so the commission would want to express its will on exactly what that that policy is for the commission.
Commissioner Lamont?
Yeah, I wanted to answer Commissioner Sadwani's question directly. I want to say, first of all, that my vote didn't reflect a desire to prohibit commissioners from traveling at all. I actually felt that we should lean in that direction. There is no current prohibition on our traveling, and I think it should be perfectly fine for commissioners who want to do that. And there's a mechanism for reimbursement on that travel. So I think that's commission business, and I certainly would support the flexibility of commissioners being able to do that as necessary to support our work. So that's my position.
Well, right. I mean, right now it's kind of an implicit policy that anybody is free to travel to Sacramento, for instance, to our headquarters for any meeting, and then the commission would cover the cost for that. But if one of us decided to take a tour of of all the counties, that would be something different, right? So, okay, so we'll look forward to that travel policy and further discussion of the matter then. Let's move on to item 4C. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Sinai, you had.
Sorry, two things. I don't think that the Northern California folks realize that the Southern California folks have not been given that same okay to travel up to Sacramento and such. So I think for equity's sake, it's been really hard sometimes seeing how folks that are up, at least if Commissioner Fernandez, when she wants, can go into the office and gets to know everybody. But I will be honest, I have asked and have been said, it's coming, the policy's coming. So that is not a fair statement. The folks from Southern California have been told, just wait. So I just want to put that out there because I don't want that.
I stand corrected.
I think the Northern California folks kind of need to understand that it hasn't been equitable. I wanted to bring up another issue that does come under this subcommittee. Way back when, in like November, October, we had all said if we submitted our timesheet, we had set a date and we did a motion on what dates we turn in our timesheet. And I believe it was like the 5th. We said really early, then it would be submitted as a batch. Well, I submitted my timesheet late and I apologize to the new woman. I'm forgetting her name. I apologize, the accountant. And she had responded back, well, don't worry because we're doing batches on the 15th now. And you'll all get paid a week into the following month. And that is, we have a motion in place. And so if it's going to change, that's way too long to wait for money. So I just wanted to, I brought it to her attention and to the executive director's attention that this was a motion before most of the staff that we have now, all the staff that we have now were in place, but that if that's going to change, it needs to come to us.
Okay, Commissioner Fernandez, you're responding directly to that concern? Okay, and then we'll go to Commissioner Lamont.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Commissioner Sinai, in terms of the batch, I was just made aware of that. I think last week, she sent me an email and I responded. I won't share my response to you, but she has overturned her decision to hold it as a batch, so that will not be happening moving forward. She was made aware of the 5th of the month and to not hold the timesheets because it's not equitable for anyone to wait a whole month and a half after, I guess your services have been provided, right, basically. So that should not be happening moving forward. So I just wanted to make sure that you knew that.
Okay, Commissioner Lamont and then Commissioner Sinai.
Well, I was going, Commissioner Fernandez already addressed the one show since I had a conversation and I was told that she wasn't aware at the time of what we had voted on. And so she was adjusting her process to meet what we had previously voted on. So that was something that was shared directly with me. But that wasn't why I raised my hand originally. The reason I raised my hand originally is I just wanted clarification because I wasn't aware that the Southern California commissioners couldn't travel. So that's, clearly from my comments earlier, I wasn't aware of that. So I just wanted some clarification that I never recall being told that I couldn't travel to Sacramento or anywhere for that matter, but particularly not to Sacramento. So could someone please clarify that?
Commissioner Fernandez?
I'm just going to clarify by saying I was never aware of such a policy. And actually, Commissioner Sadwani, was it about 2 weeks ago, came up to one of our meetings and traveled. And just FYI, I do tend to go to the headquarters office, but I'm only 15 miles away, so that I don't incur any per diem for going into headquarters. But in terms of Southern California, I don't think it's been prohibited.
Well, perhaps the travel policy can address that explicitly, and then that'll be clear for everyone.
Well, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Lamont?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate it sort of being punted. No, I don't appreciate it being a punted to the travel policy. Something has been declared as either an implicit policy or some directive that was given to commissioners. At least that was my interpretation of what was shared just a few minutes ago, that Southern California commissioners did not have the authority to travel. So that came from somewhere. So to punt it to the policy subcommittee at this point is not satisfactory to me. I like to understand where that's coming from, because either there's some email to that effect or something, or someone was told their per diem was not going to get paid, but that's a pretty bold declaration. And I'm saying that as a Southern California commissioner, I have never been told that, and it has never been implied. So that doesn't mean it isn't the policy, but I'm trying to figure out where that came from. And I'd like to really know.
Okay. Commissioner Anderson and Commissioner Sadwani.
One, I totally agree with Commissioner Lamont. And, I was up in Sacramento like very first, those times. My understanding has always been, and it's, and even, if you want to come to a meeting, you just let everyone know and make sure that they can arrange for the right numbers of stations to be there. And so that was always my understanding about travel. And any other than that, I have no idea where that's coming from. And then on the pay, I was actually one of the first because I did all my things and I did go through we all voted on the 5th and changed to the 15th. It's not okay. But then, and I just want to make sure, because we had been doing it sort of on a rotating basis, that's so kind of work. Actually, good. Oh, I think froze. Hopefully not. We voted that the whole group do everything by the 5th. And if you're after the 5th, then it's late. So I don't want it changing and then being just sort of rotating unless there's a reason you get paid more quickly. If you do it that way, then it's okay. But otherwise, I mean, no, you can't just change the policies we voted on. So I definitely want to go back to that and say, look, we said everything in by the 5th or on the 5th. And then you can, if you're after that, then it's like as it's gotten to, which that makes sense. Keep it to the next month. But then they were kind of going to go in, and so you wouldn't get it, like as you said, 6 weeks later. So I would like both these issues to be kind of addressed.
Hey, Commissioners Sadwani, Fernandez, and then back to Commissioner Lamont.
Yeah, sure. I think in terms of the travel policy, I did come to Sacramento several weeks ago. It was unclear. So at this point in time, I've paid for that myself. I haven't put in for reimbursement because every week after week, we've been told a travel policy is coming. And so I just haven't put in for reimbursement because I don't know what's reimbursable per se. And I know Alvaro did share with me like a long handbook of the state's policies and procedures. And it wasn't entirely clear what was reimbursable, what is not. I certainly do not want to do anything that would, you know, take money from the budget of the commission if it's not authorized by the commission. And there have been comments said in the past, like, well, you know, Commissioner Sedwani flew up there and someone else just took the train. And so hearing that, for me, that made me feel a little sensitive about it. So I've just personally paid for that and have not submitted for reimbursement for any of the items because I don't know what's covered and what isn't. And you know, I think for me it was a lack of clarity, and that's why I ask about the travel policy, because it's not clear to me what we as a commission want to approve or do not want to approve. And I think that ultimately it does still come back to us to do that, and of course within the state guidelines for travel, but I don't think we have that at this point in time.
Commissioner Fernandez.
No, I just wanted to let Commissioner Anderson know that I have addressed that, the 5th of the month. She wasn't aware of what our prior policy said, that if you turn in your timesheet by the 5th, it would be processed. So how the state works is it works in batches. So however many, you have to kind of catch their, I forget what they call it, but if you turn it in by the 10th, then you'll get paid by the middle of the month. And then the next batch cycle is after that. So that's why we set the 5th, so that by the middle of the month, we would have our the checks. So if you're after that date, don't expect it by the middle of the month. And again, I've already addressed it with her. I will confirm though also.
Commissioner Lamont, I think your hand is down now. So let's go to Commissioner Sinai. Commissioner Sinai.
I lowered my hand, but I didn't do the mic. Sorry, I keep doing one or the other. It was never a policy said, but it was inferred by comments made by staff and others. And Lamont, Commissioner Lamont, I'm sorry. They, you know, and it always has been kicked back to, well, the policy is coming, and at that point you can travel. There was even a joke once saying you can always come, but it's on your dime. So it wasn't very welcoming, and it might have been a joke, but it still felt like, wait, I don't know what's getting paid, what's not, as Commissioner Sedwani said. So I'll just wait till the policy comes. This is
Commissioner Fernandez.
Yeah, yes, I don't want to speak for Commissioner Fernashari, but I'm going to kind of speak for Commissioner Fernashari, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I have never heard that. Had I heard that, there would have been more urgency to this travel policy. And the only reason we started working on the travel policy was because we were going to start traveling in August. So wanted to be more concrete with all of the policy. So I'm not saying, you know, we weren't dragging our feet on this. I just didn't realize that some of you had been given that type of information. And that's honestly, this is the first that I've heard of it, as Commissioner Lamont mentioned.
Commissioner Anderson and then Lamont.
Thank you. We actually Raul did a whole presentation on what gets paid for, and you know, and how you fill out the form. And I kind of wasn't paying that much attention, so I had to go back, and he sent it out to everybody again. So we've had, yes, you know, here's, you know, for parking, for mileage, you don't get gas, but you get mileage. You know, here's your airfare or your train or your, you know, the car, you know, it's and it's all spelled out. And we all got that, and we had to sign it too. So I know it was a long time ago, but that included everything. And so if anyone's been implying that, well, no, you can't, that is something, like, I agree with Commissioner Lamont. That's, you know, we got to clear this up now.
Commissioner Lamont.
Thank you, Commissioner Anderson. You took the words right out of my mouth. I was like, I remember Raul walking us through all of this, and we had all of that. So that's why I was so befuddled, to be honest with you, because I explicitly remember just him walking us through what we needed to do. And so anyway, thank you, Commissioner Sinai, for the clarity. And at least somebody, and Commissioner Satwani for answering my question, because I think that I think this is important because there is conflicting information that you're receiving outside of what we were specifically told was reimbursable. So I make a motion that you submit your travel expenses for reimbursement. Thank you, Chair.
Is that an actual motion?
No, I don't think it's necessary. I think that Commissioner Salwati can glean what she needs to do based on what she's heard so far. I was being polite.
Okay, Commissioner Fanchari.
Yeah, I'm really truly sorry that we're having this confusion. Commissioner Fernandez and I, would have had this policy done and out by now if we knew there was that confusion. Because, and we just said it today, we felt the travel policy wasn't critical to get out there because anybody could travel to Sacramento. We were under, we felt anybody could travel to Sacramento right now to our meetings. They're free to do it. And I'm so sorry we've had this confusion. You'll see it as one of the 9 scenarios that when we approve our proposals, that when we approve the travel policy, it is approved for all commissioners to travel to our meetings, wherever they are. Sorry about this. We'll get it straightened out, and I apologize for the confusion.
Thank you, Commissioner Farshad. Okay, any further discussion or any action that needs to be taken at this time? If not, let's move on to item 4C, Gantt chart subcommittee, Commissioners Kennedy and Taylor.
Chair, there is nothing significant to report at this point. We are awaiting the outcome of our vote to petition the Supreme Court for a January 14th deadline. We can, once we have an outcome of that, we can make adjustments as needed. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Any discussion? If not, we'll go to 4D, VRA compliance, Commissioner Sadwani and myself. Commissioner Sadwani?
Well, we have, there will be more coming to you shortly. I think Commissioner Anderson and I are also going to be sharing a document that is posted with proposed dates for line drawing. And I think we're beginning to get to a phase in which line drawing and VRA work will begin to come together. As we discussed in, I believe it was our last meeting, Mr. Becker is working with the line drawing team to use American Community Surveys data, which is currently available, to conduct an assessment of those areas in which we anticipate RPV analysis, racially polarized voting analysis, would be needed. The call for racially polarized voting analysts is out currently. He did give us an update that he has 1 applicant right now, but anticipates receiving several more before the close of that call, which is Friday evening. And so we will look for their recommendation on who to use as an RPV analyst. If you recall, we set up the contract in such a way so that they could solidify who they want to use and we could move forward in a more timely fashion. I think that's about it. Commissioner Yee, any additional updates?
I think that's it. So the Commission's role in that process will simply be to approve or not the recommended RPV analyst. And the contract, it's a invoice item on the VRA council contract, so the cost is simply passed through.
That's correct. And if everyone's comfortable, we were kind of assuming that similar to the way finance and administration typically reviews all of the applicants and takes a look at the selected person of staff, that we could do the same thing and provide a recommendation for the full commission.
Okay, any discussion? Now we'll go to 4E, outreach and engagement, Commissioners Sinai and Fonashari.
Sure, we're shifting gears a little bit, but we're circling back to a conversation we began a few meetings ago and didn't quite come to a conclusion on, and that's about the meetings in August that we had penciled in, and whether or not we were going to set aside time specifically for groups to provide COI input. Again, we've touched on this conversation a couple of times. We haven't reached a conclusion on it. I think we need to reach a conclusion both for ourselves and to help all Californians, whether they're part of a group or not, to kind of understand where we're headed. We got a letter from the League of Women Voters that touches on this topic a little bit today. Also touches on our line drawing strategy, but today we're going to focus the conversation on our community of interest input. So Commissioner Sinai has put some thoughts together, and there is an attachment. There was, let's see what it's for E, that kind of highlights the thoughts that, well, she and I and Andrew talked about. Anthony, sorry about that, Anthony. And so at this point, I'll invite Commissioner Sinai. I don't see you. Are you here?
Yeah. So again, as Commissioner Fonashari said, we are only looking at phase 2, the public input phase. When you read this, I know it can be a little confusing because we never bring up the word group or community-based organization or any of the others, and that was purposely done because everybody uses those words in different ways. And so we went back to the old political science roots into Alex de Tocqueville and John McKnight and used associations. We do have a proposed motion. Do you want me, Chair, to read the proposed motion and then explain the whole background, or which way would you like it to go?
Let's hear the motion.
Okay, the proposed motion is that all associations are welcome to submit their communities of interest to the Citizen Redistricting Commission using all the publicly available methods, including but not limited to the COI tool and the COI input meeting. The current rules for public input apply to all individuals and associations. Only if the commission has clarifying questions on any COI will the person or entity who submitted the COI be invited by the commission to a public meeting to clarify.
Okay, so you're making that motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
I was hoping you would, considering.
Could I have
Dr.
that motion
Hernandez?
sent to me, please?
It's in the handout for 4E.
Oh.
Yeah. So the idea here is we wanted to ensure that we created the most inclusive policy possible. We had started going down a road where we were saying 501c3s or this or that. And the truth is we want to be open to all associations, all collectives of individuals who feel that they have something to share with us. And for that reason, we're welcoming all associations. But we've been using the same policy for public input in phase 1 as well as in phase 2, where every entity or every individual gets the same amount of time. So we've been using the 3-minute marker unless it's two different languages. If you need it translated, then it's 6 minutes. And so we want to keep everything open and allow for people to continue to participate and everybody to know that they are able to participate. Later on, we'll be looking kind of at the line drawers timeline. And in that timeline, we're excited because it kind of built, our question is, as we're looking at the COIs and we do need clarification, how do we ask for clarification? And that's where we kind of, guessed here. The main thing we wanted to make sure is by inviting someone to come and speak to us because they need to clarify something, we are not endorsing their community of input or the organization. We're getting the clarification. And so that's how we kind of thought this all through.
Okay, discussion. Commissioner Toledo. And then Commissioner Vasquez.
I'm a little bit confused by this. My understanding is any Californian, any organization, anyone can give input to on communities of interest, and we haven't really created a restriction. In fact, we've been doing significant outreach and communication through social media and otherwise, through newspapers to encourage Californians to participate. So I'm not understanding why we need to make that more explicit that associations are welcome to submit input. I thought that was just a given. In terms of clarifying questions, so I'm just wondering if this motion has more to do with the clarifying questions and maybe outlining a procedure for that rather than the association piece. So I'm just, maybe Commissioner Sinai or Commissioner Fernashari can just add a little more clarity around this. And maybe I'm just the only person confused. That could be too.
Commissioner Vasquez and then Commissioner Fernandez.
I guess my point of consideration, I'd love to hear the discussion and other folks' thoughts on this on this motion. The first thing that came to mind for me was, I know we've had discussions in the past about sort of how do we weigh the various types of public input that we get, and there's been discussions at several points about like, how do we know if these folks have been paid, if their plants are politically coordinated, knowing that that's a loaded term and probably not the one I want to use. But I think we've had discussions about how we weigh public input, and my concern with creating a policy like this that attempts to cover sort of groups who I think are really going to be proposing probably what they view as unity maps. I'm concerned that their organizing strategy could be viewed in a negative light because it will be consistent. They'll start to get organizers, and if we only got 3 minutes each, we'll get communities to come out here and give the same type of public input. And so I'm just, on the one hand, I'd be very interested to see how much does the community show up to give that kind of public input and endorse this type of map. And on the other hand, I'm a bit concerned that that incentivizes very well funded organizing and community input, and how we as a commission will interpret that. I'm concerned about how we view political savviness in this process and what we're doing to incentivize that or disincentivize that, and how we're interpreting it, whichever way it goes.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Okay.
And I think, I believe this motion was brought forward because of the entire confusion initially on our schedule. We showed group meetings for a COI input, but again, the group meetings was for further discussion in terms of the map process, the map drawing or Unity maps. And I agree with Commissioner Toledo that we've already heard from groups during their 3 minutes. I think I'm going to guesstimate that maybe like half of the input that we've received, some of it verbally, are from groups, and they're able to submit it within the 3-minute time frame. So I kind of feel like we already have that process. I don't know why we need a motion. And then in your motion, you said only if the commission has clarifying questions on any COI will we invite them back. I guess this question is for Anthony, Chief Counsel Payne. Is that the only way for us to get clarification on any communities of interest input that we receive where we have questions other than during the meeting asking for clarifications? I mean, because I just feel that now we probably have quite a few where we need additional information. And if the only way for us to obtain clarification on that is through a public meeting, that could be time consuming versus being able to send an email or phone call or something like that. So I just need clarification on that process.
Sure. So on that, Commissioner, and I'll defer to Commissioner Sinai as well on this, if this is the understanding, but my understanding of that piece is more to address the conditions when the commission may invite particular associations and what those conditions would be, i.e. if the commission has clarifying questions. Not that that's the only or exclusive way to do it. It's more of what are the conditions under which the commission may invite an association. And I think the theory there is the commission wouldn't be doing it to, for example, ask a particular association to make a presentation as much as it would only be doing it if the commission had clarifying questions to ask. To assess right now all of the ways that the commission is free to reach out to individuals or associations, I would have to provide input on that at a later date. Wouldn't be able to do that right now off the cuff, but I believe that's the intent of that phrase there.
I mean, it would be a question of whether such clarification would constitute public input. I mean, input on redistricting matters, right? So. So part of the issue here, I think, relates to
the questions.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Chair?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, just because there are so many different ones before we lose them.
Sure.
So yes, I'm going to go backwards. A can of worms was opened up when on the calendar there was dates put in there for a community group. And the public saw that. We never quite took that off. We never quite discussed it. And groups had to ask, wait, so are you doing it? Are you not doing it? And so we had said, we really need to address this piece. I think Commissioner Vasquez, your question is brilliant. And that's one that I've been staying up at night, just thinking about the weighing public input and how we're going to do that. And that's kind of a different conversation than this one. So I don't want to. And then also the Unity map question, that's a different conversation than this one as well. We're really trying to clean up the confusion about what happened when we said we were going to have dates and times for community groups. And we're saying basically we were open to every association participating in the different vehicles we have. And so we were just trying to clarify all that. Do we need a motion or not? The chair had asked us to please come back to the group with a clearer definition of what was meant by quote unquote groups, and we chose to define them as associations because groups was getting very loaded, and people, and again, someone said, well, let's just do 501c3s. Well, the NFL, the National Football League, is a 501c3. So there's all these ways around that, and so we said, let's make it as broad and inclusive as possible. And we all three of us read the letter from the League of Women Voters, and the pieces that are about community of interest, public input. We think we're on the same page that we want to be open to neighborhood associations, as well as labor, as well as commerce, as well as nonprofits, as well as large collaborations or collective actions. So we're being as open to everybody, but everybody right now has the same rules.
Commissioner Toledo?
Yeah, and I want to thank Commissioner Sinai for the clarification. I think that helps. And I think her last statement is an important one, is that we've not excluded any group and not restricted any group as a commission. And I don't believe that we at this point are intending to do so. So maybe it's maybe I don't know if we need a motion, but maybe it's just a statement on that all are welcome to provide feedback, to provide community of interest input. And that's just a reaffirmation of what we've been doing and what we've been saying in our outreach efforts.
And if the NFL wants to submit a community of interest, they're welcome to as well. Sorry, I singled you out.
Absolutely. I mean, anyone is welcome to submit, right? Whether it's a 501c3, a for-profit. I mean, we've had advocacy groups, we've had political action committees, we've had all kinds of people give us input into, and to restrict people's and groups' First Amendment rights would be we would need to think about that a little bit further. So, and of course, I wouldn't want to restrict anybody from being able to give us input, because ultimately it's on us to weigh that input.
Sure, but another reason this comes up is because the 2010 Commission did this, right? They set aside a couple of meetings for
No.
They did not. Okay, I'm being corrected.
They set time aside for the line drawing and for collective efforts that had maps. And sometimes they've been called unity maps. So that's why we keep saying that's about line drawing. Right now we're talking about community of interest public input sessions.
Right. Okay. Further discussion? There is a motion on the table. Commissioner Fernashari and then Toledo.
I'll yield to Commissioner Toledo.
I was just a quick question, whether this policy has received legal review and gone through legal or counselor.
Yes, so Commissioner Toledo, I have reviewed it. There isn't anything improper with anything that's in the document. Is it something that could be a motion? Yes. Is it a policy? Is it largely a policy statement? Yes. It's also possible, frankly, to have a motion that does express a policy, and there's nothing inappropriate about that as either. So it really is very much a policy discussion and a policy call on the commission's part. You could do either way.
Thank you.
Commissioner Akutagawa.
I'm just wondering if it's going to cause more confusion because we have been doing it, and now it sounds like we haven't been doing it.
Commissioner Akutagawa, could you clarify that? Have been doing what and not been doing what?
Well, by whether by motion or just making it a statement, policy or otherwise, it seems like it implies to me that this is necessary because we have not been doing something. Whereas I believe we have been accepting testimony, public input testimony on communities of interest from any organization, any group, any association, whatever name you want to put to it. And so I I think are we trying to put a solution to a problem that wasn't there that then is going to create another problem? So basically, do we have a solution and looking for a problem?
So you're thinking this basically just ratifies our current practice, so.
I mean, if that's how you want to position it, then maybe that's where the clarity needs to be, because I feel like right now, I mean, we, by practice and by statements, we have said we will accept it from everybody. And that's what we've been receiving. We've been receiving letters. We've been receiving, public input at meetings. Some people saying exactly the same thing. In other cases, others, saying, slightly different nuanced ways based on what they do or their particular interest, but essentially saying the same thing. And they could still be also an organized group as well too. And so, yeah, I mean, we could formally say it and say, we're officially saying what we've been doing, but I don't know. Is it, again, are we looking for a problem to say we have a solution for?
Commissioner Fornashari.
So as Commissioner Sinai said, we kind of open up a can of worms and we want to provide clarity because the implication was that we were going to have group-specific public input meetings. And what we're trying to get at is, the current process we're using right now is enabling everyone to participate. And so by doing that, provide some clarity that we're not going to be hosting group-specific public input meetings in this phase. That doesn't mean, we wouldn't do it, host meetings for unity maps down the road. That's another conversation. But we want to provide clarity for this phase, the community of interest input phase, that we won't be hosting association-specific public input meetings.
Commissioner Patella?
Can we just say that? Like, why do we need this whole policy? I think that's what's confusing me. Can't we just say, look, for public input, for COI input, we're not going to, but for my understanding is that for the line drawing, the unity map presentations would likely occur, or at least that's still to be discussed. But I think that's what the group presentations were supposed to be for the unity maps. But for the COI input, it was not supposed to be. But can we just say, I don't want to say oops, but it's not that, but it's just making that clarification and just saying we're just putting clarification rather than this policy. But yeah.
Sure, Fornashari?
Yes, we can do that. And that's fine. There was a long discussion. We've had a number of long discussions about this. It was going in a bunch of different directions, and we were trying to provide some clarity here, and apparently that clarity didn't come through. But I'd like to just offer a different motion, if that's okay, Commissioner Sinai, that the commission will not be hosting group-specific public input, community of interest input meetings.
But I do think that it is important for us I did hear commissioners that time we were having that group conversation say, well, we don't want to, someone said, I don't want to hear from chambers. We don't necessarily want to hear from chambers, but we want to hear from nonprofits, or we want to hear from 501c3s. And maybe we don't remember that, and we don't realize things that we say because we're just thinking out loud. But those are dangerous comments that can be used out of context. And that was why the chair had asked us, please come back with a definition of what groups is. And we wanted to be very open, not just for the community, but for us as a commission to say, hey, We've been saying we're open to everybody, and that means everybody. That means we can't be biased and say we're not going to hear from this group or this group. And we have been saying it out loud in our meetings, and that's dangerous. And that's not what our intent has been. But that was why this became very. This came forward, and we were asked to please really define what we mean and be clear on our words, and have it down to say we're open to everybody, and everyone, any collective of individuals can come to us to share with us, collective of individuals from California. But so I'm okay going that way, Commissioner Farnashari, but I am afraid that we are leaving ourselves open because different commissioners have said this is a group, this isn't a group, and we're saying everybody this is association is broad.
We have 4 minutes before our required break. So at this point, the motion is standing as originally proposed, unless you wish to modify it, Commissioner Sinai. Commissioner Toledo?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on what Commissioner Sinai just said. So I think if individual commissioners are saying one thing or another in the course of a meeting, that's one thing, but the commission only acts as one. So the commission, and the commission has never said that it would restrict language or any comments from any one group at this point. And so, and I don't anticipate that it would, but I just wanted to make that comment that the commission has been open to anyone willing to give public comment on any issue in terms of redistricting matters during our public input sessions. And thank you, Commissioner Gee.
Commissioner Sinai, is your hand still up?
I'm sorry. Were you talking to me?
Your hand is up. Just checking if that it's not okay. Well, the motion remains on the floor as originally proposed. We've had discussion. Commissioner Sinai, Commissioner Farnashari, do you wish to proceed with comment on the vote?
I just want to check back in with Commissioner Sinai. Do you want to accept my change?
Yes, I will accept your change.
Okay, let's have that displayed, please.
So just for clarification, the amendment was to delete what was previously provided and just state the commission will not be hosting group community of interest meetings. Is that correct?
Commissioner Fernandez?
I'm just wondering, I mean, because both Commissioner Sinai and Farnashari did a great job of defining what associations are. So instead of groups, maybe associations. But I appreciate Commissioner Farnashari, the commission will not be hosting either a group or association, community, I don't know how you want to put it. But do we also need to put something as we have something to effect of as we have
Commissioner
something to the effect
Fernandez.
of all associations are welcome to submit their communities of interest as has been our policy or our practice. You know, to kind of meld the two, because I don't want it to seem like we're shutting the door so you can't call us. No, we do want you to call us. But I don't know. It's just, it does get kind of confusing, all of it. Where
Okay, Chief Counsel, then Commissioners Vasquez, Kugawa, and Anderson, but we're going to be on break real soon.
I'll pass, Chair, but thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Vasquez.
I wonder, this feels like a not great policy statement, this sort of new amended one. And so I'm actually wondering if, I think this was suggested or implied earlier, could we just release a statement since we really are trying to just reiterate current policy? Could we not just ask Director Ceja to come up with something to that effect that is the reiteration of our current policy?
Certainly can. Commissioner Anderson, very quickly.
I'd like to say, for clarification, the Commission will not be hosting group communities of interest meetings for longer periods of time than the allotted 3 minutes, 6 minutes with interpretation.
Commissioner Kutagawa?
I'm just going to go with what Commissioner Vasquez says. I would just agree with what she suggested.
So referring this to Director Ceja. Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause does this need to be policy as in vote? But I think what Commissioner Vasquez said, I think that's simple enough.
Commissioner Sadwani?
I agree. I don't think we need a motion on this. We spent a lot of time developing our policy, and Chief Counsel Payne can remind us of what that was called. It's like the legal requirement of time, meet, something or other. That is our policy, and that applies both uniformly to individuals and groups, and period. And if it's necessary for Freddie to put out such a statement, that's fine. But I mean, I think it was developed in such a way to be fair and equitable for anyone who wants to submit their testimony, and I would stand by that policy, and I don't think it's necessary to move forward with this motion.
Okay, we have to go to break. So when we come back, we will take this back up. So we'll come back at 7:26. Welcome back to the home stretch, and we do have a hard stop at 8. So let's keep that in mind as we progress through these items. At this time, we still have a motion on the floor concerning associations and community of interest input meetings. Commissioner Sinai, it's your motion. Do you wish to proceed to vote, or do you want to withdraw the motion?
I'm okay withdrawing the motion because I think we have gotten clarity among ourselves and with the public.
Okay, and Commissioner Fornashari?
I'm fine with that too.
Okay.
And I guess we're going to go forward with Freddie making a press release or something.
Okay, so we'll have.
What do we need to do here?
So perhaps the Outreach and Engagement Committee subcommittee can work with Freddie to generate that release. Okay, the motion has been withdrawn. Anything else for Outreach and Engagement Subcommittee? Commissioner Fernandez?
No, I'm just wondering, do we need to have a press release? We've kind of discussed this thoroughly. I just don't think we need a press release. Been the regular policy that we've had. So I don't know, I just think it's more work on staff when maybe we don't need it.
Well, as was mentioned, it kind of got started when we had the schedule that mentioned group input, right? So Commissioner Toledo?
Maybe we just say something very simple. I like in the one pager that was provided, there's a statement there that says the commission wants to hear from all Californians. And I would just say, and the previous to that there, it says including but not limited to government. It specifies what associations are, so included but not limited to government entities, faith-based. Just saying something like the commission the commission reaffirmed its commitment to ensuring that it wants to hear from all Californians or something like that. It's very basic.
Dr. Ceja?
Yeah, we're going to be putting together the newsletter for the upcoming month next week. So maybe we can include a blurb in there and then have the chair address that in their opening statement.
Sounds like a good plan. Okay, anything else for outreach and engagement? If not, we'll move along to language access. Commissioners Kutagawa and Fernandez.
I thought we were
sunsetted.
Sunsetted, yeah.
Were you? Oh my
That's the word.
goodness. That was probably less than 14 days ago, so it was still on the agenda. Okay, moving right along. 4G, materials development, Commissioners Fernandez and Kennedy.
Is Commissioner Kennedy? I guess it's me. Okay, we do not have anything new to report. Still waiting on the paper COI communities of interest tool that has been handed over to staff. And the last I heard, they were working with the post office on postage.
Hey, anything else? We go to 4H website, Commissioners Kennedy and Taylor.
If Commissioner Kennedy is not here, then I guess I'll make a quick update. Nothing tantamount to report. However, we do have a list of recommendations that we passed on to staff. So the onboarding of a analysis to help with that, to help with the website development would be appropriate, and we are definitely for that. Thank you. That's all.
Commissioner Fornashari.
So I just like to try to get a little bit of clarity. The folks who called in about getting this site is dangerous, the clarification that Commissioner Anderson gave at her meeting, at a meeting, I just clicked a link somewhere to go to our website earlier today, and I got the warning that it's a bad website, don't go there. The address was https:// and then no www. So I'm just wondering, Freddie, what's happening there, and is there something we can do to fix that?
So I checked in, Commissioner Anderson brought that to my attention a few weeks ago, and I checked in with Nation Builder. They said that if our address does not include the www, then it's not recognized because it doesn't match up directly to our website. So you'll get that message that says that it's not safe to visit. So we've made it a point to include www in all of our latest collateral materials. And so I'll keep changing everything that I see on the website to a www so that when people link onto it, it's included on there and it'll take you directly to our website.
Anything else for website? Not, we'll go to 4I, data management. Commissioners Ahmed and Turner.
We have nothing new to report. As you all know, we just voted to hire a data manager, and as we get that process moving forward, we're hoping that we can eventually ease off the agenda for our subcommittee.
All good. Anything else for data management? Commissioner Akutagawa?
Just a quick question. Marcy, Director Kaplan had mentioned using Airtable. So is Airtable up and running? Only because, we've all been waiting to find out what's going on and people have been asking about seeing the input. So I meant to ask that earlier, but I forgot.
Dr. Kaplan?
We are using the free version right now. So we are not.
And to add to that, I would just clarify that it's separate Airtable bases for the outreach work versus the community of interest input data management piece of it. So I encourage everyone to actually make their own Airtable and play around with it. It's pretty cool software, but it's two separate bases that we're working with within our organization.
Dr. Kaplan?
Yes, and just to add, ours is a contactless, not related to COI or anything like that.
Okay, anything else for data management? No, we go to 4J, Community of Interest Tool, Commissioners Akutagawa and Kennedy.
Actually, I believe that was noted in Director Kaplan's report. We are seeing continued increases in the use of the COI tool. And so, but I think it was included. Sorry, that's what I meant by there was a lot of numbers.
Good. Okay, moving on to cybersecurity. I'm sorry, Commissioner Fernandez.
Before we do,
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
sorry, I was having problems finding unmute and start video buttons. I did inquire with Statewide Database about the status of the access sites. And so I just wanted to report back the response from Statewide Database on that, which is that they have hired access site managers for each location and are working to have them furnished, set up, and ready to open. Most recently hired site managers are still setting up their locations. They are, quote unquote, nearly ready to receive members of the public, and a more definitive timeline for opening will be forthcoming in the next few weeks. So I thought that was important for colleagues to be aware of. Thank you.
Very good. Commissioner Fernandez.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up, was it in yesterday's meeting? That a few of the callers were saying that they went into the communities of interest tool and they couldn't link multiple counties together to draw their map. So I just want to flag that. And if they are able to do that, then it's not simple enough for them to understand or for any of us to understand. So there might be an issue there. And I don't know if we can bring that forward.
It was also splitting counties, I believe. So. Okay, moving on to 4K, cybersecurity, Commissioners Fornashari and Taylor.
I don't have anything with regard to cybersecurity. I would just encourage everyone to be safe, considering the case rates are going through the roof at this point.
Okay, moving on to 4L, incarcerated populations, federal facilities, Commissioners Kennedy and Turner.
Nothing to report at this point, Chair.
Thank you. 4M, lessons learned, Commissioners Kennedy and Ahmed.
I'm toggling back and forth between the agenda and the Zoom. We have placed on the agenda planning tool our request to hold a 1 year on lessons learned session. I'm seeing from the document proposed plan and dates for first phase of line drawing that the August 10th meeting is likely to be very full in relation to line drawing. And so I guess what we're looking to is if there aren't other urgent matters to be taken up on August 5th, we would be interested in being able to dedicate the August 5th short meeting to this lessons learned discussion. And we do have a list of discussion questions that Commissioner Ahmad and I are working on.
Very good. And then to 4N, line drawing subcommittee, Commissioners Anderson and Sadwani.
Great. Well, thank you very much. We have a document which I'm going to ask, Shara, do you have it on your screen so you can share it?
Is this 4N in the handouts?
4N, yes, it is in handouts, correct.
Yes, I could pull that up. Do you want me to share? I don't know if I can share. Oh, I can. Would you like me to do that?
Yes, please.
All right. And here, let me put down some of the other things. Are you seeing that?
No.
What are you seeing? Let's see.
A bunch of data.
Oh, got
data.
it. Okay. Is that better?
There we go. There we go.
There you go.
That's it.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yep. Okay. Do you want to walk through it, or Sarah, do you want me to?
Either way, sure. Happy to. How about I get us started, and then if you want to jump in when I am sure to fail somewhere along the way. So, you know, in anticipation of moving out of our phase 2 of communities of interest input sessions, we wanted to begin to float some ideas for how we will handle line drawing. And some of the many questions that need to be answered and pieces of information that need to be gathered. This document was developed in coordination with the line drawing team after actually a couple different discussions, as well as with staff, with Alvaro and Anthony as well. So for August 10th, I think we reported this previously, that the VRA subcommittee is also working on kind of jointly with Mr. Becker, an analysis of potentially a heat map. We're not exactly sure what format that's going to take. So that would come out on the 10th, as well as a conversation about our first criterion of equal population. And with that, we need to have a conversation about population deviation. If you recall, way back when, I think it was Justin Levitt had prepared a presentation talking about population deviation and how there are some general guidelines and standards that we need to be thinking about when it comes to deviations of equal population from district to district. So we'd like to have additional training, conversation, and also a recommendation. We haven't received what that recommendation is yet from our attorneys, but we're certainly going to be asking that of them in advance of that meeting. Also on August 10th, if possible, if Airtable is set up and running and our data management is underway, we'd also like to begin to schedule several opportunities in August for the commission to receive all of our community of interest submissions and to discuss them and to provide a debrief. So we will work with the line drawers to figure out what the best way will be to ensure that everyone has had a chance to review submissions through the COI tool, as well as submissions through the input sessions, and really just have an opportunity for us to talk about what we're hearing, right? With the acknowledgement that, you know, what stands out in my mind might not stand out in your mind, and just trying to share with each other regionally, from a regional perspective of what we're hearing and what we think might be important. And I think that'll also give that a great opportunity for the communities to weigh in and say, hey, you missed out on mine, or what about this other aspect? In September, as we're winding down the community of input sessions, we wanted to plan 3 days in which we can not only debrief, but specifically to provide direction to the line drawers of what we want to do. This would happen before census data is released, probably before the VRA racially polarized voting analysis and assessments have been done. But really to take all of the information that we've gathered thus far and then begin to put some shape to it. What do we want to do as a commission? What are some agreements that we may or may not have? And that all leads us into October. Again, we're anticipating the redistricting database to be available by September 23rd. The line drawers have said that they need a couple days just to kind of get everything together. They'll take the direction from us on September 15th through 17th to October. And again, we'll come back October 4th, 5th, and 6th to really start sketching in public. The process that we thought would work best is to work with the line drawers to the regions that they have been assigned. So there are 4 different individuals, as I'm sure you've noticed from our communities of input sessions. Jamie, John, Willie, and Tamina. We would work with them one at a time to start to sketch out, here's what we're thinking for Los Angeles, here's what we're thinking for the Inland Empire, Orange County, San Diego, et cetera. and that really this would be an iterative process. And I think this might be an older version because I think that there was actually something more here. But in any case, this would be an iterative process. So we would meet for 3 days, and then we would be off for 2 days so that actually off for 3 days so that the line drawing team can go back and develop some visualizations of what we're thinking, right? And recognizing that we might not all be on the same page every single time. Maybe it's possible to develop more than one visualization, and these are regionally focused. And then the next week we would come back and do the same thing again and again until we get to a point when we
Froze again. Oh. No, did Sarah freeze again? Oh.
Sarah, you froze and now we can't hear you.
Sarah, we lost you for about 20 seconds. We can't hear you now.
Now we can't hear you.
Jane, you want to take it away?
If mine holds, I've been also jumping back and forth. Yeah, basically, I'm just going to sort of do a quick, actually, Sarah, could you go back up? Can you just move back up? That essentially, the August months would be, we're looking at what we have. What do we think? Just kind of that overall, as much as we can, hoping that the Airtable is up. We don't quite know when the Airtable will be actually able for us to use it. Then as those last couple of days of September, the idea is now we're going to look at the line drawing. And if you recall, remember the first time we did our line drawing training, and they actually had some districts kind of drawn for us, and we looked at those. This is pre that. We're actually we'll have our communities of interest up there, and we'll sort of say, I'm kind of thinking about this for those areas. And that's what the September meetings are about. Now, we hope in some point that we would be getting the RPV, so the VRA analysis that we could add in as a layer. And then in October, we're actually, for the first time, if you go up a little bit, these sort of weeks of October, we're hoping to put those together. And the very first part would be to give the line drawers in each area. This is kind of what we're thinking, right? And then they'll go off. We look at Los Angeles, then they'll go off and do kind of an idea based on what they've heard, and each of those areas on 4, 5, and 6. So, and then we'd post that the week before, the October 12, 13, 14, do the whole process again, because really this is what we're thinking. Is that what the line drawers saw as well? Oh, no, we want to do something different. So that would change from each week with the visualizations. Now, these are not draft maps at all. These are, is the commission thinking this? What does it look like? Are the line drawers, are we communicating back and forth on the same level? And doing this until the full process, until we come down to the idea we think, hey, this looks kind of good enough. Let's actually draft one up and have us look at it before we say, let's go to a draft map. And then, as Sarah was saying, the release of the draft maps, again, our dates will vary. And we have to wait until we hear from what they say. But remember, the draft map is that 14-day, you freeze it. Nothing happens. And then we will start back. Then if you keep on going. Right. And that will bring us to when we're actually going to put out a draft map 14 days later. Then we'll return to the public input sessions for feedback, with December coming back, then do another open line drawing session. And again, all of this, we can't put dates on any of this until we hear back from the Supreme Court. So, and the notice, we're thinking it'll be held in hybrid format. We don't know. So that's basically what we're thinking. And we're hoping that this is trying to get dates on the calendar now. And as we get closer and more solidified, they'll become, we can fill in exactly what happens when with agendas. But this is more, give everyone an idea. Let's get dates on that calendar. So again, and if you might notice, there are a couple of conflicts that September 15, 16, 17. I know the 15th through the 16th is Yom Kippur. We're thinking that the 15th is actually just it's a business meeting. We're actually probably going to take most of the 16th and 17th for
Here, we lost
line
you.
drawing activities.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, very good. Lots of good work here. Let's take some quick comments. Commissioner Sinai.
Stable, can't see a thing.
Just a couple of things. Since the 15th is already a business meeting and it is Yom Kippur, can we move it to the 13th, 14th, and 15th just so that we can be more accessible? Marian, you're not on mute, so we're getting some feedback. Also, on the October 5th, 4th, 5th, and 6th, John's areas have skipped the Imperial County. Inland Empire sometimes includes the Imperial County and other times it doesn't. So we probably want to be a little more clear because Imperial County is not going to be happy if it says Inland Empire, Orange County, San Diego, and they're not in that. And then where are we putting, I'm going to open the can of worms, but where are we putting dates for are we going to have associations present to us or not? So when are we making that decision? And where do we put that on the map? Because I think they need to know the dates and we need to know the dates if we're going to go that direction. So that's a conversation that we're going to let you all decide and bring a recommendation to us. You're welcome to borrow anything. And then if on the 10th, the Airtable's not working, can we still use that time to have conversations even if the data is not there, just because so many people have taken notes and stuff? I wouldn't want to lose that opportunity. So that was a lot of different things, but.
No, okay, just I'm going to go backwards.
Very quickly, please. Yes.
Yeah. Let's look at what we have. We're only looking at the stuff we've heard verbally. And that would sort of make that at a higher level than everything else. So we really want to wait till we get the COI. One of those days is going to be there. And it might not be the 10th, it might be the next week, but the 10th we have all that other work. So it's actually the week after of the August that we'll probably really start getting into looking at the COIs. Because we'll be doing that, the deviation and the other PRA things. So the Yom Kippur, I don't know if we want to do before. The reason why we waited a little bit is because we've just had COI input meetings virtually every day that week of September before that, and so including Saturday. So we kind of wanted to give the staff a little bit of time off before we hit 3 days. It was originally going to be the 14th, and we kind of moved that. That's one thing. And then we've got it on the what areas we're doing. That was just we weren't being quite clear about that.
Okay, Commissioner Kennedy, very quickly, please.
Just a quick reminder that the reason we shifted from the 14th is that is the day of the recall election. And as we're discussing getting dates on the map, I would suggest that we put the 18th on our calendars, just in case we need it. I think that discussion that week is going to be a very substantive discussion, and I would foresee that we might need to have that extend through Saturday. Thank you.
September 18th?
Yes.
Commissioner Kutagawa.
Yeah, actually, I would also suggest, I think we should honor, Yom Kippur and avoid the 15th and 16th. And as painful as it may be, actually shift to 17, 18, even the Sunday, the 19th, if we have to, for that.
Okay, this is a draft document, so please continue to give your input to the subcommittee as they continue to develop the schedule. Commissioner Fernandez?
Yes, and just since the line drawers, thank you very much, are taking the schedule forward, so I can just let it go. If we could also maybe include a few days in there for business meetings. I just want to make sure we don't lose sight of that. So I'm stepping away from the schedule and I'm so happy to hand it off to you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay, anything else for line drawing? Will there be anything for public input, design, or for legal affairs tonight?
No, there will not be, Chair. We actually covered our topic earlier on in the conversation
Okay.
today.
And legal affairs, I think you're the chair this month, Commissioner Toledo, nothing? Okay, then why don't we go to Commissioner Fernandez? No? Okay, then I think we can take public comment for item number 4, as well as closing public comment for today altogether. There will be no closed session today.
All
So
right.
Katie,
All right.
just one second, Commissioner Ahmed.
Sorry, just wanted to make sure that everyone remembered from earlier on, our ED talked about shortening the meetings from 6 hours to 4 hours for all of the remaining coin input meetings. Just wanted to make sure we remember that, as the agenda for the meeting is from 2 weeks today is due today to be posted. So that one will reflect the 4-hour meeting.
Good reminder. Okay, Katie.
Yeah.
Oh.
The commission is now taking public input on the
Public comment.
Oh, the commission is now taking public comment on the remaining items on the agenda. To give comment, please call 877-853-5247. Enter the meeting ID number 874-4288-3536 for this meeting. Once you have dialed in, please press star 9 to enter the comment queue. The full call-in instructions have been read previously in this meeting and are provided in full on the live stream landing page. At this time, Chair, we do not have anyone in the queue.
We'll wait just a moment. So our next full commission meeting will be a week from today, Wednesday, July 28th, as a 9:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. meeting. And let's see, Commissioner Kutagawa?
Yeah, hopefully the person from the California Election Officers Organization will also call back in.
Yes, I believe we have her now.
Oh, good.
Yes, we do. We do have a caller with their hand raised, and she did call in earlier. Caller 0110, if you'll please follow the prompts to unmute by pressing star 6. Caller 0110, go ahead, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. This is Donna Johnston, the CACEO, California Association of Clerks and Election Officials, president, and I would like to talk to you a little bit about the letter that we sent. I don't want to belabor the point of the entire letter. It's a rather lengthy letter. CACEO does recognize the challenges that you are facing with the 2020 census delay, as well as us. We at the county level are dealing with Board of Supervisors lines, and we appreciate and understand the time constraints and the opportunity to try to get as much public input as possible into this process. However, counties typically have 4 months to complete the complex task of assigning voters to proper sets of districts according to their residents. We understand that in speaking with legislative folks that there is no desire from the legislature to push back the June 7th, 2022 election, which is something we all discussed and thought might be a possibility. And really, there's not an appetite for this from the registrars, as we're currently only have 11 days between the June 22 election finishing and our certification date and the start of the November 22 election. And during that time, we'll be implementing our school, municipal, and special district lines at that point in time. So we do welcome the opportunity to discuss with the commission how we can collaboratively balance these duties that you have and that we have for the best possible
30
outcome at
seconds.
all.
Let's continue.
Go ahead, caller.
So at this point, it would be great if we could possibly schedule a meeting to discuss this further. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for your patience.
That was all of our public comment at this time.
Okay. Is there anything else on anything else? When we next convene for business, you will be under the able leadership of Commissioner Akutagawa. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned with a minute to spare.